This episode of Chat Grapple and Cheap Pops is brought to you by zenpop.jp. Use the link in our description for $5 off your next order by using the code GRAPPLE. Welcome back to another super special edition of Chat Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast. I am JB, and with me, as always, is the best Chris in all of wrestling podcasts, Chris Dredd. How are you, Chris?
Done know. I'm all good, bruv. I'm really excited. Again, we were supposed to do a review and something has popped up and now we've just cut that and we've got a very special guest on again, man. I'm excited. I'm gassed.
We have got a very special guest. This has come about very quickly. So as always, you know, the surprises keep coming here at the Chat Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast. So let's get to it.
Welcome, everyone, to another very special episode of Chat Grapple and Cheap Pops podcast. We've got another amazing guest who has literally come out of the darkness, and he is joining us now on this Sunday evening. We want to welcome probably one of the most underrated wrestlers, I would say, in a long time, Mr. Maxx Payne.
Hello.
How you doing, man? Great to have you.
I'm doing so good, man. I life is treating me really good right now. So how can I complain?
We're so thankful that you've decided to join us, and we've got a ton of questions. We'll try and keep it as brief as we can. We know you're probably a busy man. You've got a lot to do. So
it's okay. I'm yours for the next however long you need me.
Oh, amazing.
We've had people go for 3 hours on this show before, so we'll try not to do that. But firstly, how have you been? Like, what's going on?
So I took as you guys know, I took a huge hiatus from the wrestling world in general. I was pretty discouraged at the end of my wrestling career, and I just, I decided it was time for me to leave and raise my family and pursue a different life, because I was always one of those guys that I loved the wrestling business, but I was also aware enough that, by the time I was, in my mid-30s, a lot like other guys like Kurt Angle and the guys who were actually amateur wrestlers, I'd been wrestling since I was basically in second grade in school, so I was pretty tore up. So it was a good thing, and I had a lot of stuff I wanted to do in my life. And so I went and started doing it, and kind of made some plans, things I eventually would like to revisit the wrestling business with, and wow, it opened back up, and I'm really looking forward to it, because I got quite a few hidden treasures I'm looking forward to giving to the wrestling fans, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. So I've been doing great. I actually, I got to be honest with you. I didn't expect to live to be 60 years old. I don't know how many wrestlers do, because I was just watching a special on Roddy Piper the other day, and he was talking about his retirement. And he says, "Fuck, everybody knows I ain't gonna make it to 60." And I thought how prophetic that Roddy knew that. And I got to be honest with you, I quite frankly, had I not changed my life, that's part of the reason I left the business is. Had I not changed my life and who I was and what I was doing, I would have just followed, unfortunately, in all the footsteps of my peers. And I'm pretty sure I would be another wrestling statistic. And so I'm just honored to still be here. And like I said, I'm doing really, really good.
I mean, you are definitely from the era where we did have a lot of tragedy, a lot of premature deaths and people leaving us prematurely. Do you think that it was the lifestyle that people were living then? Was it pretty much sex, drugs, rock and roll and that kind of thing, do you think?
I love that question. Let me tell you why. Because I met Tesla one time in Germany, the band Tesla. And we were talking about, they were going like, God, it's amazing how similar you guys' lifestyle is to ours. And I said, yeah, but there's a little difference. And he said, yeah, what do you mean? I said, well, tomorrow night when you get done playing, I said, when you go to your bus, stop in front of the bus door and jump as high as you can in the air and land on your back 10 times and then get on the bus.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about comparisons. People don't realize that wrestlers play a rugby game, a football game, an American football game every single day of the year. And it's such a vicious cycle that it's wrestlers were the pulse of like the opioid crisis. Wrestlers were the guys that were living on painkillers because they had to. It's not, of course they were addicted to the opioids in them, but the reason they were addicted is because they fucking needed them. Like Jesse Ventura said once, that I never left the ring that I wasn't in pain. And it's so true. And so it is sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but then add the most incredible physical pain that you could add to that. And the last dichotomy of that is people still have their own predisposed ideas about whether wrestling's real or not. That's not the question, but they still look at it sometimes as though you could do it and not get hurt. And it's impossible. You can't fall down for a living and not get hurt. I don't care who the fuck you are. I don't care how good you are at it. And that's the reason that we're all skilled at falling down. But, when you're fucking 350 pounds and you fall down every day of the week, 10, 15, 20 times, it takes a very quick toll on you. And wrestlers are a symptom of their own demise because it's, like I said, it's just a self-perpetuating pain drama that the only way out of it a lot of times is taking pills. And as we all know, literally that's a dead end. Because eventually, no matter how many you take, it won't take the pain away. And that's when you start pushing yourself to places where your body finally just says, fuck that. And I can't take 200 milligrams of pure opium and survive. Your body, your brain just says, okay, that's it. And so it's a tough lifestyle, and it's like rock and roll in terms of the travel, but the pain, in my opinion, genuinely separates the men from the boys, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, myself and Jordan, we trained in wrestling for a good couple of years. We tried, and
but how bad it hurts.
Yeah, but even that though, Max, like even doing training for a couple of years, we've still probably got injuries. I know my knee is still fucked from training all that then many years ago. And Jordan, I know your back probably ain't the same as it ever was.
It never will be. But
it never will be. And we literally did fuck all on the scale of it. We literally, it pales in comparison to, like you say, hitting that ring every day, bumping on the outside on the mats, even the most innocuous little things, taking, suplexes and stuff like that, and even offensive moves. When you're coming off the top of the, these guys that do the flying elbows from the top turnbuckle, that takes it out of your hips. And these guys have had, multiple hip replacements. Stuff, like you say, man, it is it is more than sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It is, your body is literally getting beaten the crap out of on a nightly basis. And the traveling as well, you know, where you like you say, you're either driving somewhere afterwards, or you've got to get a plane, you know, and you're taking the drugs like that to sleep, and the uppers, the downers, you know, that kind of shit.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just a vicious cycle. And it's so funny, you know, when you brought up the training, man. I had a little school in my hometown. I ran my own little territory, and it was so funny. I had these I can't tell you how many guys I had come to my camp, you know, that wanted to be wrestlers, and I said, okay, so the first thing I'm going to teach you how to do is hit the ropes. And I had more than one guy. You know, I jumped in the ring, hit the ropes as fast as I could, jumped out, and I said, now that's what you need to do. Go do that. And I literally had 2 or 3 people hit the ropes, jump out of the ring, and say, "Oh no, I'm done. I can't do that." You know, so, you know, it's one of those things. I remember when I first just started hitting the ropes, I had bruises all the way around my rib cage when I first started. And I was an amateur wrestler too, so you know, it's not like I didn't understand getting the shit kicked out of you in practice and training and competition. But I was not prepared for how tough professional wrestling was, you know, and I'll tell you, it just takes its toll. But that's part of the reason why wrestlers are so infamous, because they do carry that, they carry a very, very serious, almost an enigma with them, don't they? Still, by today's standards, wrestling is still, even though it's been exposed a bunch, the true inner workings of wrestling is not very public at all. You know? And it really, I don't think people care anymore. I think it's way past that now. So, but you know, it's a tough business. It's a really tough business. So if you're thinking about doing it, for the love of God, you know, make sure you do everything you can to train right and, you know, do all the right things. So.
I mean, even that, like you say, the true enigma of wrestling still not being known, you know, even the fact that they call the ropes when they're actually metal cables wrapped in tape, like, you know, it's crazy. You know, I remember hitting the ropes first time, and I went home and I took my t-shirt off, and my partner at the time said, "Fucking hell, what's happened to your back?" And I didn't even know myself. I thought it hurt, you know, and I looked in the mirror, and like you say, the welts on the back, it's, you know, that kind of stuff. It's incredible, man. It's, But that is the beauty of wrestling, I think, because, you know, for people inside, it is a very close community. It's almost like a cult, where, to the point of, you know, not a cult. It's like a, you know, it has that cult aspect of it, you know, where it is a family, a fraternity.
I think you're right, though. I think it is a cult. I really do, because. You know, the wrestling business, as you guys know, it's not always based on your talent. You know, it's based a lot, so just like everything else. It does, you know, it's just the way it is. It's just the way the business works. Sometimes people get breaks out. What the fuck? How come I couldn't, you know, get one of those kind of breaks or whatever? And you know, you can't. It's just a fucking tough. And part of the reason it is because wrestlers, you know, the older guys, I don't know about the new school, because I have been so removed. I don't know. And when I left the business, I really left it. I mean, you know, people go, "Hey, remember back in 2002 when these guys," I'm like, no, because I quit watching it. I just left. And, you know, it's one of those things that to be a part of that group, once you're finally in it, I will tell you, when I quit, the hardest addiction I had to face quitting was the wrestling side of it. It wasn't the drugs, it wasn't that stuff. It was the being in the ring and the thrill of the pop. When that leaves you and you don't, you know, you don't get that every day, that's a fucking hard withdrawal, I will tell you. And so you're right, it is a cult, and it's very, so once you are in it, as you can plainly see, you don't, it's pretty tough to leave. It's pretty tough to ever be out of it. It's pretty tough to not be affiliated with it in some way. And that's kind of why I'm back. You know, it showed back up in my life at a time where I had really planned actually this whole thing out, kind of. And so when it showed up again, I said, okay, I'm gonna take it, because this time I can make money without falling down for a living. So I don't have to fucking take a bump anymore. I can just go sign autographs and say hi to fans and meet new people. And I love that. That part's the great side of it now. So.
Well, I'll apologize now, because we tend to jump around from time to
don't
time.
worry.
Like,
No problem.
we never seem to end up doing a set like it's in any order. So I'd like to ask you about the CWA.
Okay.
How did that come about?
Are we talking
Sorry, Catch in Germany.
Yeah, Catch.
Yeah.
So that's funny. I just was telling that story last night. So I had I'd left Japan. I'd been in Japan. Then I went to Memphis. And then after Memphis, I couldn't get booked anywhere. And, I was basically sitting at home, and there was a company years and years ago called Word Perfect. And they made the first word processing software, and they were based out of my hometown in Orem, Utah. And they had this massive campus, 27 buildings, and it was just a fucking huge software corporation. It was actually the biggest word processing software in the beginning. And the only reason that they didn't go any further is because they refused to sell to Microsoft. And Microsoft said, okay, well, if you're not going to sell to us, we'll invent our own. And they Word, and now nobody knows who the fuck Word Perfect is, right? But anyway, I went to get a job with these guys, and I got a call back. So I was getting ready to go meet the guy that was going to, you know, whether I was going to get this job or not. And Chris Benoit called me on the phone, and he said, Max, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I got fucking trying to find a job. He goes, well, I got you one. He goes, you want to go to Europe? And I said, fuck yeah. So I made a decision right then that whichever thing called me first, that was going to be my destiny. If Otto called me first, I was going to Germany. And if Word Perfect called and offered me the job first, I was going to go do that. Because the Word Perfect job would have been great. It was good money. I could walk to work every day. And as soon as I hung up the phone, Otto called. And so I went to Germany for 2 years, and the rest, as they say, is the beginning or the history or whatever you want to call it of my career after. I mean, the CWA is what ended up giving me my opening to Cowboy Bill Watts, and Rip Rogers called Bill for me, and the rest is history. Did that answer that?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So, I mean, we had Alex Wright on the podcast as well a little while ago.
I love Alex.
Yeah, and he's a great guy. I mean, you got any, because obviously being in Germany for a couple of years, I'm sure you would have probably come across Steve and Alex.
Oh, of course. I worked with Steve. I wouldn't even know how many times. I love the Wright family. Steve was one of my biggest fans. Steve was always behind me, loved my gimmick. He was the one that he would come in while I was practicing in Germany, while a lot of the other wrestlers would bitch because I was in practice and trying to get my guitar gimmick working. And they were trying to have a nap in the afternoon. And so, you know, they were a little bummed out that I was in there practicing. But in the end, it worked out okay, because they weren't so bummed out when I started playing my guitar in a city that we hadn't done any business, and all of a sudden we started doing great business, and they were a little more appreciative after that. But the CWA, I really feel bad to this day what I did in the end of my career to Otto, and I would like to apologize to him and Mike, his son Mikey, personally. And I loved everything about the CWA, but I was done. I was so discouraged, and so by the time I left, I went there the third time, I think it was in '97, and I left in the middle of Vienna because I was fucking miserable. But that wasn't their fault. That was my fault. And I didn't know any other way to fix it but to just fucking go home and tuck my head between my legs, so to speak, and move on. But the CWA, I will tell you, I have nothing but great memories of wrestling all over Europe with those guys, and just loved all of them. I'm sure like the referee, little Scottish dude, I know he's had to have passed, wore a kilt all the time as the ref for the CW. What was his name?
Oh,
that one's.
God, you guys are probably too young to even know him. Oh my God, what was his name? Fuck, he was awesome. But anyway, I had there was the Colonel, and I just loved it. All of the guys were so good. That once again, the fraternity of the wrestlers. Once you're in, and once you get it down, you're family. And that's really cool.
So when you started wrestling and when you were younger, is it true that you had a motorcycle accident that kind of stopped you from wrestling, and then you kind of went back into it later when you was in the NCAA?
So that's absolutely true. So, wow, man, my high school wrestling career, it was really crazy. So I started wrestling, like I said, probably in second grade. We had little wrestling camps for kids, and initially I wasn't that into wrestling. In fact, I told my high school football coach, I went because my brothers did, and I didn't like it that much. I told my high school football coach, I said, he goes, "You coming out for wrestling this season, aren't you?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Well, you're not playing football." I'm like, "What? Okay, I'll go wrestle then." All right. So, as a freshman, I was on the wrestling team because at the time, the school had 4 years of like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. The freshmen were in the high school still. But playing like on varsity school sports yet. So it wouldn't have been until I was a sophomore that I could have actually played high school football. So my first year in wrestling, I was actually a freshman in high school, they let me wrestle, and I went to our biggest rival in wrestling, and it was called Carbon High School. They were in Price, Utah. And I went there and I pinned their state champion. I was a freshman, he was a senior. I pinned their state champion in front of him. As you can imagine, that really pissed him off. And I did really good. So I was really, really excited to start wrestling again the following year. And that summer I was riding my motorcycle, and it was actually, school had just started. It was on a weekend. School had just started. It was on a Sunday. And the reason I remember that is because the lady that come out and helped me get up, and after I crashed, the first thing she said to her son is, "See, that's why you don't ride your motorcycle on a Sunday." Thanks, my fucking knee's broke in half, and you're fucking bitching at me because I'm riding my motorcycle on Sunday. It didn't really help. But luckily, her husband was a doctor. He came out and fucking loaded me up with some morphine, and I didn't care after that. But no, I did. I crashed when I was a sophomore. Beginning of my sophomore year, destroyed my left leg, and they rebuilt it. And I went back after the Christmas break and made a decision that I was going to come back. And actually, the football coach at the time, it's a big story, and I don't want to tell you the whole thing because it would take me literally a long time. I will tell it eventually. So hopefully, I'm going to my goal is to have a book out in the very near future. But
Awesome.
anyway, bottom line is I went back. The high school football coach told me I would never succeed at anything ever in my life again because I'd quit football because I hated his fucking guts. I went back. And by the middle of my junior year, I had pinned every single person I'd wrestled against. And over Christmas break, a theatrical casting agent showed up at my house. And they'd already been to all the wrestling rooms in the state looking for other things. And I never tried out for it, even though I was huge into drama. I had drama in school, took all the, theater classes and all that shit. And this lady came and said to me, hey, they're shooting this movie over in American Fork, which is the town just next to where I lived. She said, if you go over tomorrow and try out, you could get an extra part and it could mean good money for you. So I asked my coach if I could go. He said, yes. Bottom line, I went, and it wasn't an extra part. It was a major role in this motion picture. It's called Takedown. It's
That's
on
right.
YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Takedown.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and I did that movie. And if you watch it, you'll see it's a pretty big supporting role. And that was actually, that whole scenario happened in the year of 1978. So from January to March of 1978, I was in a movie. In that time, I went to state, wrestled a guy, and took second in state. And quite frankly, I'll tell you this now because I know Robert really well, the guy that beat me, and I'm not taking his win away from him. He deserved it, and I felt he deserved it. And with 1 second left, I had a hold of his leg, and I could have tied the match, gone into overtime, and I let go. And I know that sounds like, oh, you're making an excuse. I'm not making an excuse. Robert deserved the championship. He'd worked out with his team. He set the goal to beat me. But I drove myself to all my own wrestling matches that year. My coach fucking hated me. And the only people that liked me was my team, because when I showed up, I pinned everybody. And they didn't want anybody else to be the heavyweight at the time. So anyway, I shot the movie till March that year, found out my girlfriend was pregnant, got married on June 9th, and on 21st of December, I had my oldest son. So I was married, I was in a movie, dropped out of high school, got married, and had a son by the end of that year. And then I worked construction for a year and decided, fuck this shit. I hated that. I'm going to go back to school. I wanted to go study film and television. And I fought until I got a scholarship to ended up at a junior college. And there's a lot to that story too, but I was going to go to Oklahoma State. They didn't have a scholarship for me. I ended up going to a small junior college where I was a two-time All-American national champion on a national championship team, and was recruited by all the major universities in the United States with wrestling, and ended up going to Iowa State and was an All-American there, and broke an NCAA, unofficial NCAA record that will probably stand forever. I even have a plaque that, in fact, let me see if I can show you this plaque. This is just kind of a, so you know I'm not bullshitting, because wrestlers have a tendency to, I know it's hard to believe this, but
Yeah, no.
wrestlers are pretty famous for bullshitting.
And
So
that's
this-
the award for winning
this is the
by
award.
most pins, right?
Yeah, it actually says, I don't know if you can see what it says there, but it says,
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, there it is.
it says, to a record that may never be broken. This, my college coach gave me this, and his name was Dr. Harold Nichols. And I can tell you, I'd been there for 3 years. And when I did that, I got to tell you, that was, I I don't even know how to say it. I remember the pride on his face when I walked off the mat. He said to me, he goes, he said to me as I was walking off, he goes, "Can I just ask you one question?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Nick, what is it?" He goes, "Why haven't you done that the whole time you've been here?" Well, by the time I got to college, by the time I got to the NCAA level, I had 3 fucking kids. You know, I mean,
Jeez.
you know, there were no provisions. And if it hadn't have been for my coach looking after me, I don't know how I ever made it through college, you know, and that's part of the reason I went to Iowa State at the time, because my ex-wife's family was from there, and it just made it easy to go to school there. But yeah, so your question was, did you destroy your leg? Yep. And somehow managed, you know, and believe it or not, knock on wood, that knee still works. And I don't know, not quite sure how, but it does.
I mean, that is a hell of a fucking rebuild, isn't it?
Like, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I lost everything. I lost anterior, posterior cruciate, and medial lateral collateral. So I basically hyperextended, broke my leg at the knee. And it was tough. It was fucking really tough for a 15-year-old kid, you know, to try and come back from that. But I did it, and I'm glad I did.
That is intestinal testicular fortitude right there.
Or just pure fucking insanity, because I wanted to go back to school so bad and get back into the movies. Really, the voice in my head that drove my heels at the time was the motion picture industry.
And so you moved to Los Angeles after that, right?
So now I'm glad I told you the takedown story, because when I graduated from school, the director of photography's name was Reed Smoot. And Reed lived in the town next to me, another town next to me in Utah County called Provo. And Reed, the director of photography, lived there. And so I called him. His number was in the phone book. I called him, and he knew. I said, "Hey, Reed, this is Bobich." That was my name in the movie. And he knew my name, and he laughed. He said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Hey, can I come and talk to you?" And he said, "Yeah." So I went to his house, and I will tell you a really interesting story in the middle of this. So I go to his house. His name was Reed Smoot. And I'm not going to tell you a whole bunch about this, because there's something coming in my future that it's a novel, actually, I'm writing.
Amazing.
I went to Reed's house, and I went inside, and I'm looking at his pictures, and here's this really old black and white photo. And in this fucking photo is my grandfather. And I'm like, "How do you know J.W. Humphrey?" And he goes, "Oh, he was good friends with my grandfather. And my grandfather was not instrumental. He is the reason that Bryce Canyon was saved for posterity, because cattle ranchers were trying to drive cows through fucking Bryce Canyon. Natural resource. I don't know if you know what Bryce Canyon is, but if you don't, look it up. You'll be fucking shocked. It's one of the most, Utah has 5 national parks.
Right.
Bryce Canyon's one of them. And so Reed and I were kind of bonded in a weird fucking way beyond that. And so we went out on the porch. He gave me a glass of lemonade. It was one of those old, he was living in his grandfather's house. His grandfather bequeathed it to him. And we were sitting on the front porch. His fucking house was right on Main Street in Provo. I mean, I could go on and on about this. Like I said, this is all part of the novel. You'll hear more detail. Anyway, I went and we started drinking fucking lemonade and laughing and telling stories. And he said, "Listen, Max, there's only one thing you can do. You got to go to LA. If you want to be in the motion picture industry," he goes, "go to LA. And his last words to me when I walked off his porch, he said, "Hey, when you go to LA, keep an open mind, because you never know what you'll find." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, you know." So went to LA, and was really struggling to find a job. Couldn't find one. And one morning, I thought, okay, I'm going to sleep in and I'm just going to go to the beach, go boogie boarding and body surfing with my cousin today. And I fucking 5 o'clock, he's up listening to the radio. And I'm like, God damn it, Jason. He said, he comes running in my room. He goes, hey, you want to go to a movie premiere tonight? And I said, what? He goes, I just fucking won tickets off of K-Rock, which is one of the biggest stations in LA. I just won premiere movie tickets at Mann's Chinese Theater for Pee-wee's Big Top Adventure. I know. Okay, so I said, fuck yeah. So we went boogie boarding all day. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the same day we went to see Back to the Future. It just come out, 85, and went to LA. And we're standing there and fucking James Brolin, Alice Cooper, David Lee Roth, and the list goes on. Just star after star rolling into this movie. And there's a security guard standing there, and he's half my size. And I walked over to him. I said, hey, how hard would it be to get a job with you guys? And he looked at me, he turned around. It's so funny because he wasn't really looking at me when I was talking to him. He turned around and looked at me and he went, oh, fuck, you'd have a job in 2 seconds. And I said, okay. And he gave me the number and I called him and he was right. They hired me on the phone.
Wow.
And I couldn't find the place for the first night. And he said, that's fine. He said, tomorrow I need you to go to the Olympic Auditorium. I went and did that gig. And then the next day there was a fight at the Palladium on Sunset Strip in Los Angeles. It was Tate, Tillman, and Gonzalez. And I think it was Tate's debut after the Olympics in '84 as a professional fighter. And 3 big things happened to me at that fight that day. It was so crazy. It's those destiny, like Reed said, keep your mind open. You never know what's going to happen. So I'm standing at the back door. They put me at the back door, guarding the back door, the stage door. And I'm standing there and I'm kind of facing the stage, but I'm kind of looking out the door, making sure nobody's coming. All of a sudden I feel this, bam, somebody hits me in the chest. And I look down and all I can see is blonde hair. And she turns and looks up at me and it's Farrah Fawcett. And she was so cute because she looked up at me. She goes, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, Farrah, you can do that anytime. And she got off. So then they put me at ringside because I knew cameras and stuff. And there was a cameraman backing up towards me and nobody was behind him. And I'd studied television and film in college. I actually worked for a television station for 3 years while I was at Iowa State University. So I knew television production really well. And this guy's backing up towards me. And anytime you help a handheld cameraman, he's walking backwards, you just put your hand on his back so he knows you're safe. So this guy's backing up towards me, nobody's behind him. And I just reached out, put my hand on his back and followed him back. When he turned around, it was a guy I had met at Iowa State University who had come there. He'd been hired by the NCAA to come and do interviews about the wrestling tournament that was coming up. And I fucking knew this guy. And he turned around, he looked at me. He goes, you need a job? And I said, yes. And he handed me a fucking card.
Wow.
And no sooner did that guy walk away from me than this other dude walks up to me and he's got a different kind of security shirt on. And he goes, are you Daryl Peterson? I said, yeah. He goes, I fucking know you. My family knows your family. And I go, really? And his name was Dave Knudsen. Well, my last name is Peterson. So most of Utah, a lot of Utah was Scandinavians. And Dave said, you ever thought about being a professional wrestler? And I said, actually, at that time, I was still so proud of being an amateur wrestler. I said, fuck that shit. And I didn't say that to him. I said, yeah, I've thought about it before. He said, come on, I want you to meet somebody. And he took me over to the VIP area and there was Red Bastien. And Red had just finished training Sting and Warrior, Angel of Death, Steve DeSalvo, a whole bunch of guys. That first big class Red did ended up being some of the biggest stars in wrestling history with Sting and Warrior. And once again, the rest, as they say, is history. And right when Red met me, one of the first days I started working with Red, he said, would you be all right if you had to go to Australia or Japan? And I said, fuck yeah. And he got me a gig in Japan like a month and a half later. And I went to Japan. So there you have it, my brother. That's the whole beginning of my wrestling career.
That's insane. That's something, isn't it? Like, let's be honest. That's
honestly,
a wild start.
Sounds like something I fucking wrote for a movie script, but the truth of the matter is, it's just absolutely the truth. That's just the way it happened. And looking back in retrospect at it, I've looked at it on several occasions, just gone, fuck, that was crazy. Especially, I know this sounds stupid, but at the time I had a poster in my bedroom of Farrah Fawcett that was like the biggest poster ever fucking sold. And there wasn't a kid in America that hadn't gratified himself to that fucking poster more than once. So, when she ran into me and I looked down at Farrah Fawcett's face and she smiled up at me, it's just one of those moments where I don't care who you are, wow, that was fucking cool.
So you go to Japan and you end up, you do training with Chris Benoit in one of the Japanese dojos for a bit. Was that correct?
Yeah, it was a very, 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 very unique experience. I met Chris in LA, and it was in July, 1st of August, end of July. And we met in LA, and we ended up being roommates for almost a year, and in the dojo. And Brian Adams came in at the end of that time period, and was just an incredibly amazing time. I once again, another experience I look back at. I have to pinch myself sometimes, And I've always been a heat seeker, partly because I had my own ideas, and a lot of people don't want you to have your own ideas. They want to give you your ideas. You know what I mean? And I'm just not that guy. Never have been. And I had a great time in Japan, and because I had my own idea of what I wanted to be, that pissed them off when I told them I wanted to be Maxx Payne. In fact, I said I was going to be Maxx Payne to one of the reporters, and they came and yelled at me, which is probably the biggest reason they didn't bring me back after that. I went back for a couple of tours when they had some Russians there, and it went really good. I love Japan, but yeah, it was the time I spent with Chris there, I've said it before, was truly some of the most amazing time of my life. Very difficult time, but amazing nonetheless.
Yeah, that's a lot of people say that the time spent in Japan and the experience of it is something that money can't really buy. It's one of those things that when you're in the wrestling business, to spend time in those dojos is kind of invaluable.
Once again, it's one of those things. The dojo, just my dojo life, is probably 3 or 4 chapters in a book, because there's some intense shit that happened, stuff that you can't help but go, again, did that really happen, or was that a dream? We had some fucking crazy shit happen. The dojo was one of the most amazing things of my life. I don't know any other way to put it. It was fucking harder than anything I'd ever done. At the time, I had to walk away from my pregnant wife with my only daughter. She was pregnant with my only daughter, and the only child wasn't there for their birth was my daughter, because I was in Japan. So it was a very difficult time, but a very worthwhile time. Incredible.
If you don't mind me skipping on to something else, just
I don't mind at all.
A little bit. How did it come about getting to WCW?
So it's really funny because, like I was telling you before, when I started doing the Maxx Payne with the guitar gimmick, we were in Hanover, and Otto Vons didn't deal with Hanover, Germany. That was Peter Williams's baby, and him and Otto worked in conjunction with each other, but that was so that the boys had something to do in between the two major tours of Otto. And so we were in Hanover for like 2.5 months, I think. It was a big, big tour there. And that's where I started the Maxx Payne, guitar gimmick. And it was funny because Otto didn't want to use the guitar gimmick. And Peter Williams actually said to Otto, he said, "You're out of your fucking mind, man. This guy's selling tickets. Why wouldn't you do that?" And then finally Otto relented, and we had a fucking great season in Bremen and Hanover. And I think any of the boys would tell you that it had a lot to do with the fact that I brought something new to the table that the Germans fucking loved. They loved me playing the guitar. And we had a fucking great time at it. And the last show I did was in Bremen. I think it was on December 19th or 18th, 1990. And 18,000 people, and I played that night. And my playing was much more successful than my match. I worked with the what the fuck was his name? But it wasn't. He partnered with a barbarian. What the fuck? Warlord. And we had a snoozer of a match, but the prelim was fucking great. The guitar thing went really well. And when we were done, Rip Rogers said, let me call Bill Watts for you. And he did. And he took me to a phone booth in Germany, and we fucking got on the phone, and he called Bill Watts, and Bill Watts got on the phone. He said, "I'll get a hold of you and bring you to Atlanta as soon as we get through Christmas." And I said, okay. And once again, the rest is history. He called me, and he said, "I want you to come," because he knew I was a shooter on top of all of it. And Bill Watts was a big fan of shooters. And the rest is history. They invited me. He invited me down, gave me a contract. And on, I think it was like the 14th of February when the Super Brawl was in 91. And that's when I started. When I played the national anthem at Super Brawl.
Yeah. That's right.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I will tell you something though. That was the beginning of the death of my career. Because they didn't have a fucking clue what to do with me. And the proof is in the pudding. If they were smart, what they would have done after I played the national anthem, or in the middle of playing the national anthem, they'd have sent a fucking big badass hill out there and knocked me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we spoke about this before on a previous show where they fucked up majorly because you're coming out there playing the guitar. You're like a rock star that could have been the biggest face if they would have got some big bad, but they tried to push you as a heel. And it never
played the national anthem.
Yeah, it was.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
I did it well, and instead of them going, if that would have been Vince, I know Vince would have said, "Okay, you're going to go out there and play again, and I'm going to run 3 hills out there, and they're going to kick the fucking shit out of you. You're going to the hospital."
Yeah.
So the next time you come back, you're the biggest fucking baby face that ever hit fucking town. It's
not rocket science, man.
I never understood that. And I went out there and wrestled fucking Dustin, and the fucking people sat on their hands for 15 minutes. It was like we were wrestling in a library.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was hard. That was really fucking hard, man. And anyway, that's the way it all started.
Was that Bill Watts' decision for you to play the anthem?
I think I told him I could. And he said, well, we'll have you open Super Bowl. I mean, I'm sure, I think I told him I could play it. And he said, I think his idea was, okay. I don't remember 100% of the details of where the idea came from. I just knew I was practicing like a motherfucker because you don't fuck up the national anthem. You know what I mean?
Well, you killed it, man.
Yeah.
Killed it.
Oh, I fucking was so nervous. That's do remember that was my fucking first time playing in public. I played the national anthem on a pay-per-view, so there's probably at least 1 million plus watching, and then fucking and then a live audience. So there's no fucking up the national anthem. You don't get to start over.
Is that Super Bowl 1 or 2?
Yeah, well, I think it was 1, wasn't it? It might have been 2.
This one?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's the show. That's the show we reviewed, I think, dude.
Yeah.
When we were speaking about you could have been like the biggest face ever.
It's in St. Petersburg, Florida.
No, this one was in Asheville, North Carolina.
That must have been 2.
Must have been 2 then, because we spoke about it. But I mean, they had you wrestling all of the baby faces. I mean, you had quite a few run-ins with Johnny B. Bad. One of my fondest memories is you like blasting him in the face with the Bad Blaster, and you came out and you were like, you said something like, "Oh, I've been in the lair," or "I've been in thinking about this and stuff," and like,
I'm gonna give you back your Bad Blaster.
Yeah, and you let him have it. Like, it was just, we've said this with other people, and we want to give you your flowers as well, because you had everything, man. You were a big dude and you could work your ass off. You knew exactly what you were doing in the ring. You were one of the most agile big guys that the business really had known. They fucked up with your booking massively because your gimmick was so unique. The fact that, we talk about musicians in wrestling and you could talk about, people always say about Jeff Jarrett or whatever, right? But is it true you actually had a real life band with the Road Dogg? Is that true?
So that's part of the reason I'm back. That's a big story, my brother.
But I mean, you don't have to drop it on here, man. If you're saving.
No, I want to drop it. It's just not. The problem is I'm still not ready yet to let the whole thing go, and I'll come back and see you guys. It's no problem.
We would love that, man. We would love it, dude. Honestly,
when we finally get this thing rolling the right way, and the way I in order to do this, let me tell you something. I'm really excited about this. So this is how I'll tease what I'm about to do. The story of what I created it's one of those stories where I stood on the edge and looked down. I was right there. And so many things had to fall into place in order for me to go to the next level. And I'll be honest with you, I'll remember Eric Bischoff. We played for Eric Bischoff, and he said, he didn't want to do it. He said, "You got to go to Vince. I can't do this." And there were a lot of wrestling things that happened at that time that sort of forced me in that direction. But I'd already started the process of building my dream, which was a band that I'd created. Now, I will tell you this part of the story. So remember the book I told you about? I was born and raised in a mental hospital. My mother was the head attendant of the geriatric ward of the Utah State Mental Hospital in Provo, Utah. And at a very early age, I spent lots and lots of time with her, taking care of some very unwanted people. You know, the people that got left at the mental hospital were people who'd had massive strokes, were criminally insane, depression, people who were bipolar because they didn't have drugs to cure bipolarism yet. And so they were just dropped off people. And when they got old, they went to the geriatric ward, and my mother took care of them. And my mother had a band, and she'd play this band. And when I watched people who were catatonic standing in the window, you know, doing this, my mom would start playing the piano, and they'd turn and look, and they'd come over to the fucking piano and pick up a washboard or a kazoo or something. And my mom would sit there and play songs for an hour, and they'd fucking do this shit with the fucking kazoo or the noisemaker or whatever. And as soon as she was done, they'd fucking walk right back over to the window.
Wow.
My mother was amazing. And one day there was a guy that we played pool with. I played pool with all the time. His name was Alan Faulkner. And Alan was a redheaded dude. And he had these, he smoked cigarettes, and his skin was almost translucent. So he had nicotine stains on his fingers. You know, those people that get those real bad nicotine. And his skin, like I said, he was one of those redhead guys. And so I'd play pool, and I couldn't wait to go play pool with Alan. But the funny part was my mom was never let me out of eye shot, you know? She was I could always see her back there. And on this particular day, we were driving home, and I said to my mother, I said, can Alan come and move in with us? You know, because my mom would bring people home that needed help. And we had one of her best friends from the hospital lived with us for 3 or 4 years, because my mom, she needed somebody to take care of her, and that's what my mom did. So we had a spare bedroom in my house, and she lived with us. And so I said the same thing about Alan. And I think my mom realized it was time for me to grow up. And she said to me, listen, son, Alan can never leave the hospital. And the reason why is because he raped his 5-year-old grandson. And she explained it to me. And at that moment in time, I started thinking about this thing called living insanity. And then the question I always ask people is that 3 words or 2 words? And I always love that, because at that moment in time, I discovered both of them. And so I tattooed that on my arm. You can kind of see that's an LIS. And I made it 3 words because technically, but I love the idea of the fact that it could easily be 2 words, because Alan was 2 words. He wasn't living insanity, he was living insanity. And so I always love that, like Mad Magazine, they used to do these pictures where they'd show you like the perfect American front view of how great life was. Then the camera would go around behind it. It showed the kids beating the fuck out of each other, and the mom and dad injecting heroin, and just crazy shit like that.
Mm.
And that's exactly the way, I just started thinking about that. And from that time on, I always wanted to make this band. And I had a great friend in school who I'd been friends with since I was in 4th grade, who's now in a Led Zeppelin tribute band that travels all over the world called No Quarter. And I just decided I was going to put, I don't know why, don't ask me why. I just thought, I'll tell you why. The first song I wrote was about life on the road as a wrestler. And the reason I wrote it is because nobody had ever written a song of what it felt to be like a wrestler on the road, not a rock and roll guy, a wrestler on the road. I wanted music to speak the language of wrestling because I thought wrestling was fucking, I couldn't imagine rock and rollers lived any fucking crazier than wrestlers did.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what a great medium to use to write music to. And I started writing songs, and all of a sudden I decided, you know what? I'm gonna figure out how to put this band together and have the world's only professional wrestling band. And so I started on the process. I accomplished everything I set forth to do. I bought a recording studio. I built a recording studio. I recorded an album. And right after we finished recording the album, I was let go from WCW. Rude came to my house, got me up to Vince, and I took Road Dogg with me. And Vince called me and said, Max, what do you want to do? And I said, bring Brian and I to a town. Let me show you what we can do. So Brian and I flew to one. This is during the time when Hogan had just fallen from grace, and they were doing those little fucking raw shots in high schools. And, you know, they'd gone from filling arenas now down to high schools. And I went there, I'll never forget. And Vince we went into this back area. It had curtains around it. And Vince was sitting there, and I pulled out, Robert Fuller had a 1965 D35 Martin that his father had given him. And I took that guitar with me. Robert let me borrow it. In fact, I recorded my whole album with that guitar. Robert let me use it to record my album.
Wow.
And I took that to New York with me. And Brian and I sat in front of Vince, and we played 3 songs. And when we finished, Vince looked at both of us and he goes, I'm in, where do we start? And the rest is a very incredible story, because everything that could get in my way, in the end, got in my way. And sadly, the world never got to hear the finished result. Well, I'm here to fix that. And I'll be honest with you. I think the world's gonna fucking go nuts when I release this, because nobody really knows the story about Brian. And I'm here to tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm saying this kind of publicly for the first time, because I asked this question on one of the interviews my first comeback interviews that I did at one of the virtuals I did. I said, does anybody out there know who my lead singer in my band was? And nobody knew. And I thought, holy fuck, the world is going to shit their fucking pants when they find out about this record. It's, in my opinion, even if you don't like the music, the fact that I think you will like the music. It's just a good rock and roll record. And the timing is perfect, because rock and roll and heavy metal is coming back now with a vengeance. People are finding the value again in guitar players and people that are genuine musicians, if you will. Not that people who do any other kind of music aren't musicians. I would never say that. I just happen to be one of those guys that plays a guitar. And anything else I need to. In fact, I played every instrument on my album, because, except for the drums, because I had to, you know. And I'm here to tell you, I'm so excited to finally release this, because I mean this from the bottom of my heart. What you think of Road Dogg as a wrestler, you will be fucking blown away at what an amazing front man he is as a musician and a singer. And I can't wait to finally give the world the opportunity to hear the music that we wrote, that we put together. And what I brought together to make this happen. I still look back at it, like, once again, you know, you guys, I look back at it and I think, how in the fuck did I pull this off? You know, sometimes I just wake up in a sweat going, oh, well, fuck, and at the time, everybody was against me. I'll never forget, you were saying something, we were talking about, they wanted to run me as a heel. And the reason they wanted to run me as a heel is, I will define it for you. I'm going to never forget this. And Mick Foley was with me. We were riding with Bill Dundee, and I think it was either Greg Gagne or one of the other office guys in the WCW. We were on our way to Louisiana or something. And we were talking about being baby faces. And Bill Dundee said to me, he says, do you honestly think a big, ugly motherfucker like you could ever be a baby face? And God bless Mick Foley. Mick Foley, I didn't even get a chance to respond. Mick Foley fucking piped right up and said, Bill, I don't think it has anything to do with your looks or your body. I think it has to do with what the fans think of you. Who gives a fuck what you look like? If you're a baby face, you're a fucking baby face. You don't have to be fucking tan, ripped, and shredded to be a baby face. And if anybody ever proved that, it's fucking Mick.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that was what I was dealing with the entire time. And then the rock and roll world let me down. I mean, this story involves Steve Miller, as in the Steve Miller.
Yeah.
He actually ended up being the one that cost me my wrestling career.
Man, I'll tell you, Max, when all of this comes out and you've released everything, you're gonna have to come back on and do.
I fucking will. I will, because, well, first of all, I'm gonna come back. I'll come back and I'll bring a song and we'll play it, and hopefully by then the album will be out, so that everybody can listen. Because I really mean this. I think wrestling fans, I'm getting goosebumps because I know wrestling fans, they're going to fucking dig this album, because it is really, I mean, I know I love Chris Jericho and I love Fozzy, but their music isn't I mean, almost every word that I wrote is from the perspective of a wrestler. I have fucking songs that are rebellion against wrestlers, against the industry. I have a song that's just, I mean, there's so many songs that are just completely written about what it feels like to be a wrestler. And I think once the wrestling fans hear this, I'm hoping that it will translate to more than just wrestling fans, of course. But if 500 million wrestling fans like the music, I'll be content with that.
Well, sorry, Jordan, to jump in again quickly, but the way I heard about your band for a really weird, obscure little interview with Mick Foley. So it was Mick was talking about you on an interview on a podcast on the WWE network, funnily enough. So,
really?
Yeah. So he was like really saying that you were underrated. You were fucking great in the ring. You were a collegiate wrestler. You were, great. He said, but musically, he said, like, wow. And he said that obviously there was a situation. And like I say, I don't want to kind of, if you're going to be telling this kind of story, but
no, I want to hear it.
He said something about there was a plan so Jeff Jarrett was doing the singing, Be Your Baby Tonight and all this kind of shit. Yeah. And the story was going to be that it wasn't actually him singing it. He was lip syncing, and it was going to be the Road Dogg that it actually came out that it was actually him singing. And there was going to be a whole kind of thing, but it never happened. Something happened. I like to say, I don't know too much about it. I'm sure you do, the way, so that was how I knew about Road Dogg and yourself. So, and Mick Foley,
to be honest with you, I'm very impressed because nobody's ever known that. So it's okay, because it's got to start coming out. In order for me to make this happen, people have to fucking know this story. So eventually, so let me tell you, I will tell you the Steve Miller part of this because it will fill in some blanks. But I have to say something about Mick, and Mick knows I love him. And it saved my life when I left the wrestling business. So I can't be angry at anybody In fact, I don't carry shit in my pockets. I'm not that guy. And I refuse to be around anybody in my life that doesn't make me happy and want to live and fucking smile, because I've been around from a family standpoint, from a friendship standpoint, from, I refuse to be around anything in my life ever again that isn't there to make me feel good, because it's my choice. And I know this sounds cheesy and corny, but I hate hatred, and I don't want to be that guy ever again. I won't be that guy ever again. And I have no time to carry fucking shit in my pockets because I have too much to do now. But Mick, I don't know why. So let me tell you the Steve Miller story to fill in the rest of those blanks.
Sure.
Because it won't make sense. None of what happened to me is going to make sense until you hear the whole fucking story. But the Steve Miller part's really important, because if you don't know it, you don't understand where I went, because quite frankly, Mick and I were on fucking fire. And I never understood why one day he just came to me and says, Max, I'm gonna part ways with you. I'm gonna go with Kevin Sullivan. And I'm like, I started crying. I'm ready to cry right now. And I said, Mick, why? And he goes, I got some ideas and I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to say? If somebody fucking says, hey, I'm going to move on without you. I just watched a bunch of our interviews the other day. I really looked at those and thought, I don't understand how the wrestling business just didn't fucking take Mick and I right then. And just because our interviews were flawless. We were a fucking great tag team. We just did so many wonderful things together. And our interviews were great. And so I was, as you can imagine, I was crushed, fucking crushed. And one day when I finished, we got a demo done of 3 songs. And one of my friends lived in Sun Valley. And he had gone into a 7-Eleven in Sun Valley and saw Steve Miller and realized Steve Miller lived in Sun Valley. And Steve Miller had his big fucking plantation and a studio he built, obviously, in Sun Valley. So I said to my friend, I said, look, when you go home, take our tape and put it in his mailbox and let's see what happens. And one day I'm sitting in my house and the phone rings. Now, this is before cell phones. This is probably before caller ID, for fuck's sakes. I answer the phone, and this guy on the other end says, Max? I said, yeah. He said, it's Steve Miller. I said, sure it is. I thought it was one of the boys fucking with me, right? Sure it is, asshole. He goes, no, this is Steve Miller. And I said, shut the fuck up. He goes, no. He goes, listen, I listened to your songs. You want to come to Idaho? I want to talk to you. And I said, fuck yeah. So we flew to Idaho, me and my friend, and we went and met with Steve. And Steve had always wanted to be a wrestler.
You're kidding.
No.
Fucking.
He says, I want to be involved. And I said, okay. And he said, I want to be your manager. And I said, fuck. Well, let me think. Okay. So he gave us tickets. Mick went with us. Mick, myself, my other partner, we all went to fucking see Steve play at a fairground in Georgia. And after the show, we went back and fucking met Steve, and Mick was with us and everything. And when Mick came and said, Max, I'm done with you, I never fucking understood that. And I hope Mick doesn't see this as negative, because I don't look at it as negative in my life now. In fact, I honor Mick that he had the courage to call me and be honest with me and say, Max, I'm sorry. So here's what happened. So the whole Jeff Jarrett thing went down. We're on our way. J.J. Dillon calls me on the phone. He said, okay, we're ready to get a hold of Steve. WrestleMania 11 was when the whole fucking shit was going to go down. And he said, we're ready to get a hold of Steve. Give me his number. I'll call him. So I gave him his number. About 10 minutes later, J.J. Dillon called me back and he says, is this some kind of fucking rib? I said, what do you mean? He goes, I just talked to Steve Miller and he said no. I said, what? He said no, he doesn't want to be involved. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And he said, and because he doesn't want to be involved, we think you lied to us. So after your next Europe tour, we're letting you go.
Fuck, you know.
So as you can imagine, I was fucking tore up. And then Vince put me in Madison Square Garden to play my guitar in front of Madison Square Garden with a guy trying to use Madison Square Garden's PA to play in front of 18,000 people with a guy who had a fucking, basically a bar room fucking PA system and shit.
Mm.
And I failed miserably and I got booed in Madison Square Garden when I played the guitar. It was the first time ever, and it was because I couldn't fucking hear. These people started screaming when I started playing, and I couldn't fucking hear my own guitar, so therefore I sucked miserably. And it crushed me, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then I went to Europe the last time, and I thought, well, if I'm going for the last time, at the time, there was a very, this is just who I am. So I hope you understand the reason I'm telling you this is not, I'm getting somewhere, just bear with me for a second.
No, you go, man.
So I walk out the door. It's October 3rd, 1995, the morning O.J. Simpson was found innocent. That's why I remember it. And it was my birthday at the time. So I go on my tour to Europe, and every single night I was playing the guitar before my match and tearing the fucking house down, just destroying it. And I don't, you guys know, when the fucking Germans are into it, they start chanting, Zu Gaben, Zu Gaben, Zu Gaben. And if you haven't ever felt that or you haven't ever heard that, I'm telling you, man, the first time I fucking heard that, I'm getting the most intense goosebumps right now, because it is just, when I remember I told you the story about playing in Bremen before my match with the Warlord. When I turned my guitar down, there was this brief moment where the sound had to finish dissipating through the building. And there was a dead silence. And I went, oh, fuck. And then instantly the roof came off the house and they started chanting Zu Gaben. And every night on that tour, I took my video camera. I took a video camera with me. And I thought, at the time, there was a show called Road Rules had just come out on MTV. It was the first, what you would call like the reality TV. It was the first reality TV series, was Road Rules. So I thought, I'm going to take my fucking camera with me and shoot a behind the scenes WWF movie so people can feel what it feels like. But mostly the reason I took my camera is I wanted to prove to Vince that what I was doing, people were loving, and you're missing out on it. Halfway through that tour, I was wrestling Rad Radford every night. Halfway through that tour, I have all this on videotape too. So eventually the proof will be in the pudding. The
We've
out.
heard about the tape. We've heard about the tape.
Yeah, I'm still wrestling, no pun intended, with how I'm going to deal with that. But it's going to come out sooner or later. Owen and Louie were fucking around, and Owen sprayed cologne in Louie's eyes accidentally.
Right.
And Louie couldn't see. His eyes swelled. He was allergic to whatever was in the cologne. His eyes swelled shut. They took him to the hospital. They had to give him a fucking shot. Couldn't work. Everybody was getting ready to go out and do a fucking a Royal Rumble, right? And I said to Tony Gurria, I said to him, Tony, you do realize I'm the only wrestler in history that can give you 20 minutes without an opponent, right? And he looked at me and he went, what do you mean? I said, let me go out and play. What do you got to lose? Okay. So every night from that point forward, instead of having a match with Rad Radford, you would have thought the boys would have fucking wanted to blow me on Main Street because none of them had to work twice again. So I went out every night for 20 to 25 minutes. I just fucking went out and free jammed. And the fucking crowd went nuts every night. And I have it on videotape to prove it. And my last show was in Geneva, Switzerland. And I fucking tore the house down, partly because I played Smoke on the Water. And as you know, Smoke on the Water was written in Switzerland.
Right.
So the Swiss fucking love it anyway.
And that riff will do it too, man.
Right. So they fucking loved it and they're losing their minds. I played 2 songs and I left the ring every fucking night with the Germans chanting, or, you know, the German speaking audience is chanting Zugaben. And I have it on videotape to prove it. And I walked back after that fucking, I'm literally walking out of the fucking ring. And Kevin Nash goes, yeah, I don't think this is going to work, Max. And I'm like, what? Are you not hearing that right there? I mean, you're not wrestling a fucking battle royal tonight because I just played for 25 fucking minutes. Yeah, you know, this shit's just not getting over. And I'm like, okay. And so I went home and that was the last time I ever played. Now, about 3 or 4 years went by. That's more than that, maybe 10. And one day, my daughter runs outside. I'm on the back, getting ready to barbecue. And my daughter runs outside. She goes, Daddy, Mick Foley's on the phone. I said, shut up. She goes, no, he's on the phone. I said, okay. Go in and to Mick, what the fuck is going on? How you doing, buddy? It's been forever. He said, Max, I need you to just shut up and listen to me. I'm like, what? He goes, I need you to just listen. And I said, okay. He said, I called to apologize to you. I said, apologize? He goes, yeah. He goes, when you started telling me about Steve Miller and all this shit was going to go down in the WWF, and then I saw it didn't go down, I thought you were a liar. I thought you were just another one of the boys, fucking full of shit, who didn't know his head from his ass, who was fucking making up this bullshit story so you could get ahead. And Mick actually called me to see if I could help him in the WWF, but I just fucking basically been told I was walking. And I told him that. I said, Mick, I said, I'd love to help you, but I said, I got to be honest with you right now. I don't think the WWF is going to listen to a fucking thing I say. Mick says, I thought you were a liar, Max. And he said, cut to 10 years later, I got invited on Jimmy Kimmel's show. And I said, yeah. He goes, guess who was on Jimmy Kimmel's show with me? I said, I don't know. He said, Steve Miller. Oh, fucking A. Did you? He said, shut up and listen, Max. I said, okay, I'm listening, Nick. He said, I'm trying to fucking apologize here. I said, okay. He said, I went out when I saw Steve was going to be on that show. He said, I was bound and determined to prove to the fucking world what a liar you are. And I said, okay, what happened? He goes, my plan didn't quite work out the way I'd hoped it would. So he goes on Jimmy Kimmel. I have the tape. If you have any curiosity, it's out there. He goes on Jimmy Kimmel show and he says, yeah, one of my partners said he knew you and was going to record an album and you were going to come and be his manager and everything. And Steve proceeds to tell the story I told Mick. And I said, I guess I said to Mick at that time, I said, I guess it's just beyond belief that there is a wrestler out there that doesn't lie, isn't it? I mean, since technically what we do is a lie, then every wrestler is a liar. And Mick said, I'm sorry. And he sent me tapes. He sent me all the tapes from Jimmy Kimmel to show me the interview. And I always loved Mick with all my heart. It was, I tell you, as you can imagine, it was devastating. I don't hold that against Mick, like I said. The fact that I'm still alive and am now going to be able to release the album, I hope that sometime Mick and I in the future can get together, because I think at a wrestling show or something, I think fans would fucking lose their mind to see Mick and I finally back together again. But my destiny wasn't to be a great wrestler for whatever that reason was. And I had to accept that, because at every fucking stage, let me tell you this, and I've said this story before, you guys have heard it, and I'll say it again. There were two people that met me after I played the national anthem that night in Asheville. When I walked off the stage, the first one was Harley Race. And Harley Race had fucking, you don't have to believe me when I tell you this, but I'm telling you, I don't lie. Harley Race had fucking tears pouring down his face. And he stuck his hand out to shake my hand. And anybody who knows Harley Race is that motherfucker. When he shook your hand, he wasn't giving you the office shake like the boys do. That motherfucker shook your hand like he was a goddamn hay farmer. He shook my hand so gentle, and he looked at me crying, tears fucking running down his cheeks, and he goes, oh my fucking God, you really played that. And I was flabbergasted. I'm like, why wouldn't I have? I guess because, just like I read the other day, Wayne Ferris is on the top 10 list of greatest guitar players ever in the wrestling business. He couldn't fucking carry a fucking tune in a bucket. Wayne couldn't. He didn't know how to play a single note on a guitar. And so it was just, those are the kinds of things that as somebody, I didn't think of myself as legit. I just did it. It wasn't like I was going, yeah, I'm legit. And then the next person right after him that met me was Chris Benoit. Chris was crying too. And it was just a time in my life where, for whatever reason, that wasn't my destiny. And I knew I had to accept that. But I also believed that sooner or later, someday the opportunity would come back around, for me to finally, that somebody would be interested enough in where the fuck did Maxx Payne go? And now these stories are starting to get out about what really happened. I've really never told the Brian James story yet either, the Road Dogg story. I don't have time to tell that one today. It's a fucking great story, the whole, how he and I came together. I will tell you another secret about my band. Do you know who my rhythm guitar player is?
Please tell us.
You're not going to believe it. The third man, Nick Patrick.
You're kidding me.
No way.
Oh.
It's so weird, because when we do these interviews, we watch back a load of stuff, and it was after you'd blasted
Bad.
Johnny B. Bad in the face. and the Z-Man came down and you had him in the Painkiller.
Yeah.
And it was Nick Patrick that was came down to
Yeah.
try and get you off of the Z-Man.
We were laughing so fucking hard. He was funny. And Nick, that fucker, when he'd come to do shit like that, he'd try to make me laugh. You know? And we fucking, Nick and I, fuck, dude, we did the road like you wouldn't believe, man. We wrote songs together. We fucking, Nick is an integral part of that whole thing, man. I mean, in fact, it was Nick and I that started, you know, when I met Nick, that's when meeting Nick and playing, Nick and I used to go to his ring. His dad had a ring in Jonesboro, and where he trained kids. And that's where we went, and we'd take amplifiers down there and we'd go fucking jam for hours and hours. Just get fucking high and fucking party and fucking just jam like a motherfucker. And then we'd go on the road and we'd write songs. In fact, motherfucker, you know, there's a bridge that goes across the Mississippi River just outside of Mobile, Alabama. And it's fucking huge. I mean, this fucking bridge is, you know, they got to get ships underneath it. So it's one of those big fucking arching bridges. And I had this black Lincoln that Marty Jannetty had given me when I was in Memphis in 1987. And I'd taken it home with me and rebuilt it. And I brought it back to the South with me. And that's where I traveled. In fact, here, I'll show you a picture of the car. Marty fucking, you want to talk about a funny fucking story. Is when this car pulled up and Marty Jannetty fucking got out. The fucking hubcaps fell off of it. It went fucking blew up. And I said, can I have that? And he said, yeah, you can. Kicked it a couple of times. I took it and baby, I've been a mechanic since I was 3 years old. So I love cars. I love, you know, anything to do with automobiles. I grew up in the auto world. And so I just rebuilt my Lincoln, put a new motor in it, had new upholstery put on it, and did the road. And then anybody who was in the WCW with me, Tex, Shanghai, Divad, Regal, Chris, Benoit, they all knew my car. Everybody wanted to ride with me because it was a Lincoln. So, so I just traveled around in this fucking car. And let me find this picture real quick.
Whilst you're looking for the picture, Max, you mentioned Destiny quite a few times, and
yeah.
when I was looking back at some of your stuff in, you know, WCW and stuff like that, when you came out at Super Brawl in '94, I could have sworn your Destiny was to be one of the biggest baby faces WCW was going to have.
Was that the night? Did I play that night?
No, you cracked one of the Nasty Boys with the guitar.
That was when Kevin took over.
Yeah,
that was the first night Kevin took over.
But the pop that you got for cracking, I think it was Sags with the guitar, was unreal. It was off the chain. It was so impressive.
And you know that it's funny you say that because there's a fan out there that took a picture right when I fucking nailed. I think was it Sags or was it not?
I think it was Sags. Yeah.
Was it Sags? When I hit him, the guitar had actually collapsed over his head, but hadn't exploded yet. And they caught the photo right when it fucking hadn't blown the guitar up yet. And I've been saying, anybody, if you're listening to this, and you've got to pick that picture, I'd really love to have a copy of that. And I know that guy's going to show up back in my life one of these days.
Well, we'll put the call out. Maybe when we put this interview out, maybe he'll be like, oh shit, Maxx Payne.
Yeah.
You know?
There's the car. 1979 Lincoln Continental Town Coupe.
Man, that is one sexy motor vehicle.
So one night I had Mike Hegstrand in there with me, Hawk. And he was fucked up. And I just barely put new upholstery in it. And he goes, give me a cigarette, Payne. I said, no, you're not having a cigarette. You're gonna fucking drop it. No, I won't. Bigger than fucking shit. I gave him a fucking cigarette and he dropped it. And it fucking just sat between his legs and smoldered and fucking put a big fucking smoke burn in my fucking brand new upholstery. I don't have that car anymore. Someday I will rebuild it because actually, I have a movie script that I've written that I really want to produce soon. Fiction, of course.
Of course.
About the wrestling business. And I one of these days I'm gonna produce that too. But it's now that I'm back, I got a lot to do, and that's one of the things that I absolutely have to do. So did I forget to say something? Did I forget to say something that you guys asked me a question about? Did I not answer?
I don't think so.
Sometimes I get carried away. So
is the term fiction, of course, the name of the screenplay?
No, it's not. I won't tell you the name of it quite yet because the name of it is not too far from fiction, though. It's really when you hear the name of my movie, it makes perfect sense. Let me put it that way.
Well, go on, dude. Yeah.
Sorry, who? Any idea who has the guitar? The famous guitar that you played in the WWF.
Let's put the call out for that because I'd like to have that back too.
It's probably in their fucking archives, man. They've got everything in the. It's probably in the fucking warehouse somewhere, or maybe whoever's got it. They've been doing these shows where they take the guys and they go and find these like these items that are like really important to certain times. So they had the first Kane mask and all this, and they had the Undertaker go and look for these bits and bobs and stuff. If it isn't already in their archives, I would love to see you go and meet the guy who's got the guitar and then, you shredding it away in his house or whatnot. This is the stuff that, I know you said that your destiny wasn't to be a great wrestler, but I think myself and Jordan will both disagree with you on that one. The fact that you were a great wrestler. The fact that people now, if you know about wrestling and you look into how the business is, we know about the fucking politics. We know about how booking can fuck people over. We know about this, man. We spoke with Alex Wright and we were talking about how the booking around Berlin was just fucked, where they tried to make it so that it was a different person rather than kind of a change of Alex and how he was. We said, look, we know if they would have booked it differently, it would have been better. And Alex isn't one for holding grudges. He's a very diplomatic person like yourself. He's a good man like yourself. So you don't look back and go, yeah, man, those fucking assholes, they fucked me over and blah, blah, blah. So we know about this, but the fact that we still remember you, Max, with fond memories. We know your matches were great when you were in the ring. The stuff you were doing with Mick was great. Even when you're on your own, it was great. Your gimmick was it was in and of itself something that was just great.
That's the thing that was so hard for me, is because I didn't understand. Every time I went out and did anything, the fucking crowd response. I was playing one night. We were at I've seen the video, so I don't know which show it was. One of the pay-per-views, something went wrong. And they said, Max, will you go out and play your song for the crowd? And I'm like now? And they go, yeah, you got 5 minutes. And I'm like, well, fuck, no pressure, And I said, okay, because I wanted to get my fucking gimmick over, right?
Yeah.
So I go out there, and I didn't have a monitor. I just went out there with the fucking what I had and played in front of this house crowd. And once again, when I turned my guitar down, the fucking crowd went nuts. They just went fucking nuts. And I would like to sit, like I've told you the truth about what happened to me in Madison Square Garden when I got booed. I got booed one other time because I tried to make my guitar work and it wouldn't work. And I fucking called the town I was in the wrong name. I was my own worst enemy in a lot of ways too. I have to be honest about that. A lot of ways I was my own worst enemy because I was a fucking heat seeker that wasn't afraid to do shit other people like my movie, you know. It's so funny. They all fucking, everybody likes to fucking talk shit about it, but none of them wasted a fucking second performing on camera. That's from fucking Kevin Nash all the way down to the fucking guys that were building the ring for us. And you know, I never understood that. I guess what really blew me away is I never understood, even Vince, why wouldn't greed kick in at some point? If you're hearing a guy getting cheered for what he's doing out there, you know, I'll never forget, I heard Bruce Pritchard was talking about the worst gimmicks ever in the WWF, and Man Mountain Rock was one of the gimmicks he was talking about. And I'll be honest with you, Man Mountain Rock was a very difficult gimmick for me because it wasn't my idea, none of it. And I should have stood up. It's one of those times in my life I should have stood up and said, no, I'm Maxx Payne and I'm going to do Maxx Payne. And if you don't want Maxx Payne, then I guess I'll just go home. I should, you know, maybe I should have done that. I don't regret doing Man Mountain Rock, but it certainly wasn't Maxx Payne. And I never understood. I mean, even Vince, you know, one of the reasons Vince let me go is because he said, somebody got to Vince and said, oh, fuck. You know, he had friends in the music industry. And they told Vince, oh, you don't want to be in the music industry, Vince. You're crazy. Don't get involved in that. And I looked right at Vince and I said, well, fuck, of course they're saying that to you, Vince. You think they want you as competition? You think the fucking record industry wants a guy who's on fucking television all over the world to be their competition? You don't need the record company. You are the record company. If you put my fucking record on your television every week, you'll make a gazillion fucking dollars off of it.
It was around 97 that they started bringing out their own music, didn't they? They started bringing out the CDs.
Right, exactly. Yeah. They started releasing the albums and everything else. And just like we were saying, they ended up doing it themselves anyway. Being their own record company, selling their own records and doing all that. But somebody got in Vince's ear. And maybe it was because of me, I don't know. But it always just fucking broke my fucking heart. You know, I couldn't understand. I guess that's the hard part about trying to be a musician and a wrestler. It's pretty tough. You know, Tex said to me one time, Dennis said to me, he said, you know, Max, you're a fucking amazing musician. He said, I'm just afraid one day you're going to have to decide that you can't serve two masters. And I said, why? Why do I have to? Why can't I? My whole idea. So Bruce Pritchard's on talking about the Man Mountain Rock gimmick. This is a classic example of what I'm talking about. And he doesn't talk shit about me as a wrestler. He doesn't talk shit about, he said that, you know, by the time Max got here, he was kind of tired and all he cared about was being behind the scenes. Why is that a bad thing? Every fucking wrestler in the WWF, when they retire from the ring, what do? They go fucking work behind the fucking scenes, right?
Yeah.
All I ever wanted to do was be like the fucking Paul Schaefer of the wrestling industry. I wanted to be the house band so that we played shit live. Second of all, I don't care if Jim Johnston's still there or any either. I hated the sound Jim Johnston represented me as Man Mountain Rock. It wasn't my sound. It wasn't who I am.
Jim's gone. Jim's not there anymore.
Is he? Well, then I can talk freely about what a fucking dickhead he was. I'd talk freely about him if he was still there, because obviously the WWF, everybody in the world could apologize to them and go back to work for him. But I guess I was such an evil motherfucker that they could never, ever call me on the phone ever again. None of the people I helped in the wrestling business, not one of those fuckers could call me and say, hey, Max. And you know what? Honestly, I'm glad they didn't, because if they would have, I'd be dead. And now I'm not dead. Now I'm still alive, and I've got maybe that much of a brain on me in my head up there. that I can avoid the trappings of that kind of a lifestyle and actually get some of these things accomplished that need to be accomplished. I got a lot accomplished while I was there, but I never understood why nobody didn't have dollar signs in their eyes with me. Like the night at Super Brawl, that's the class like we talked about. Why in the fuck didn't a fucking booker backstage, fucking Dusty, fucking Eric, any of them say, fuck, run a hill out there and cut that motherfucker off. You'll have more heat than you've ever had in the history of the wrestling business. Can you imagine if somebody would have come out there while I was playing the national anthem and fucking knocked me out?
Oh,
it's a fucking incident, isn't it? It's
dude, that would have got fucking worldwide television.
Yeah.
And no, one of those stupid fuckers could see that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, I that's the part that just broke my heart. How did not dollar signs overwhelm your fucking insecurity that there was nobody else that could do my job? And I think maybe that's what they were worried about. You know, everybody else in those organizations, somebody else could put your tights on and go do your job. And, you know, Vince was pretty famous for that. And I wasn't that guy. And maybe that's not the reason. I don't know what the reason was. Maybe I was just such an incurable asshole that nobody could deal with me. And so therefore it was best that I leave. That I don't think that's fair, but I would take that. But you know what, like I said, I can look back and be bitter, or I can look back at it as a blessing. And I choose to look at it as a blessing because now I get to tell a story. And had I stayed, it probably wouldn't have came out and I probably would have died. So
I think part of it is as well, your gimmick and what you did was so different to kind of anything else that had ever really been done. Even you can't even draw a parallel to fucking Honky Tonk Man, because Honky Tonk Man, yeah, he had a guitar, but he couldn't play. It was completely different. It was like a rip-off kind of Elvis kind of thing.
On Elvis is what it was. Remember,
that's right.
They took him to Sun Studios and fucking he said, I'm not going to sing in that microphone that Elvis spit all over. And, his whole gimmick was a rib.
Yeah.
It was a rib.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the fact that you were so unique in what you were doing, and the fact that you could legitimately, because in wrestling, like, so everything's a fucking work, but the fact that you could legitimately go out there, play the national anthem, it kind of like, it must have blown their minds to the point of like, they really didn't know what to do with you. They really didn't know how to capitalize on it, because personally, I believe you were way before your time. Way before your time. You were in a world, you were in the early 90s where they couldn't really conceive in their old booking way of thinking of how to deal with you and how to do it. And because that old mindset of Dundee, when he was talking about a big, hairy guy,
big fat fucker like you,
he's never going to be a fucking babyface. When the fact is, you were staring them in the face as a babyface. Anyone now, when we're looking back on it, we can see, dude, what the fuck? They were dumb to not see what was there. But it was just that old school mindset of, no, this guy's a big, chunky guy, let's just fucking, he's a heel.
Maybe as well, you weren't friends with the right people. You weren't too friendly with the right people.
Well, there's no doubt about it. That was my biggest problem. My biggest problem was, and you'll see, when I release this movie, and I'm going to release it one way or another, I'm going to release it. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but it's going to come out. And the great part is all the fucking people that have been sitting back there, once again, doubting me, are going to have to fucking eat some crow again. Oh, and by the way, the album I told you that I recorded? I just discovered, as I'm going through my archives getting ready to release the album, I shot an entire movie of the making of the album in my studio with Brian, with Nick, and the other two guys that are in the band. And I'm here to tell you, when you hear the music, so when I release the album, I'm going to release the movie. that goes with it. And I'm telling you, wrestling fans around the world, you guys are going to have fun in a way you've never seen it before. It's just a fucking kick in the pants. And that's the part, I don't care. Like I said, you guys know who Carol Burnett is by chance? She's a real famous television star in the United States.
Right.
She had a show here for years. You guys are way too young to know her. But she had a really famous television show here called The Carol Burnett Show for years and years and years. It was basically just a variety show. And she was really funny. She was a lot like Lucille Ball. In fact, Carol Burnett had tried out for the show. Do you know what I Love Lucy is?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, of course, everybody knows that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's like the biggest television show in history. Carol Burnett tried out for the part of Lucy. And she didn't get it, obviously. Lucille Ball got it. And when she was leaving, Carol and Lucy were really good friends. Lucille Ball were really good friends. And Carol was crushed, and she congratulated Lucille Ball. And when she congratulated Lucille Ball, Lucy started to cry and said, Carol, listen, I want you to know something. You're amazing. It's just not your turn yet. And Lucy was right on. 10 years later, Carol Burnett was the biggest television star in Hollywood. And that's the way I feel. It wasn't my turn then because I would have been just another fucking statistic, and all the things I did would have died with me. And I think when you see when I release my album, you'll see what a tragedy that would have been. Because like I said, I promise you guys, one of these days you're going to be riding down the road and you're going to be listening to this album and hear the words that were written by wrestlers. And I have one dream, one big dream, and I know I keep having it. I'll tell you why I know it's going to happen. The reason I learned how to play the guitar is because on December 21st, 1974, I went to a concert at a ballroom in Salt Lake City. You know who the band was? Kiss.
Wow. They
had just put out, I think their third album, Dressed to Kill, 1974, 75. I'm sorry, it was 75. I was 14 years old. I went and saw Kiss, went home, and I was just fucking floored. Ballroom held 1,000 people. It's just a little teeny place. They weren't superstars yet by any means. And I'll tell the whole story about Kiss at another time because the way I discovered them was really amazing. And anyway, I went home that night and I had this dream that I was standing on stage with Kiss. And Ace Frehley took his guitar off and stuck it in my hands. And when he did, I could tell it was hot. It was live, right? I'm scared fucking shitless. And I look out at the crowd and the whole crowd looks at me like, all right, big man, throw down. And I'd wake up fucking sweating going, oh, God damn, I can't play. Fuck. So I had this dream every fucking week of my life until December 19th, 1990, when I wrestled the Warlord that night and I played in front of 18,000 people. That second, when I turned the volume down of my guitar and the song had ended and I looked up at the people and nobody had done anything yet, it was just like that moment in my dream where the crowd's going, all right, fucker. And then the crowd popped and I went, wow, I did it. I did it. I played in front of fucking 18,000 people and they cheered for me and I never had the dream again. Now I have a dream of playing in front of Madison Square Garden. And this time I won't be booed. I promise you.
I genuinely, I hope that comes true, that one, because, it's the perfect sort of redemption arc, isn't it? To go back and do it again.
Well, and, quite frankly, here's the amazing part about living insanity. We only played together as a band one time. one fucking time. And that was for Eric Bischoff and all the brass at WCW. And like I said, when we finished, Eric goes, "You guys are amazing, but we can't do it." I don't know. Part of the reason he didn't want to do it is because of what I did to Knobs. Knobs went out of his way. Knobs had a lot to do with burying me as well. And that's okay, because anybody who fucking knows Knobs and knows the truth about, I heard Arn Anderson talk about that was the worst injury he'd ever seen. And that was because that was Knobs' fault. And I'll stick by that till the day I die. And I'd fucking challenge Brian right in front of his fucking face. He knew more than me, and he decided midway through that throw, he was going to run the fucking throw. And I told him in the dressing room that night, "You're either going to go with me or you're going to get hurt." And he made his own decision, and the rest is history. But I'm at a point in my life now where I got nothing to lose. I have a great home, great life, great wife, but I have a story to tell. And I think because I failed as a wrestler, if you will, I didn't fail as a wrestler. I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
My family's told me over and over again, "Fuck, are you ribbing me? You've been to the show, dude. What the fuck are you talking about?" Yeah, I get that, but I didn't take it. I didn't get to where I'd hoped it would go. So I could be nothing but a musician the rest of my life. Now, that opportunity has presented itself again. And not only for my sake, but for Nick Patrick's sake, for Brian's sake, for my drummer's sake. I want the world to fucking hear Living Insanity. I want the world to at least, even if we never get to play live again, if we never even have the opportunity, okay, I'll live with that. But let's let the wrestling fans decide now. And that's what I'm going to do. It isn't going to be Vince's choice. It isn't going to be Eric Bischoff's choice. It's going to be, I heard that fucking Eric Bischoff talking about Mick Foley, or talking about us the other day. And they actually were talking about the match, the Chicago street fight. And Eric didn't like it. And he didn't mention me, he didn't mention Knobs, and he didn't mention SAG. The only person he talked about was Mick Foley. And the reason the only person he talked about was Mick Foley is because out of everybody in that group, the biggest legend is who? Mick Foley is absolutely the biggest fucking legend in fucking, he's up there with all-time biggest legends in WWF history, and rightfully so. Mick's an amazing human being. I love him with all my heart and always have and always will. I hold no animosity towards him, and I look forward to these next two big events I got coming up. I look forward to seeing him in the near future so bad, so that hopefully the hatchet's buried and we can move forward as the good friends that we were then, because I have no animosity towards Mick. In one way, he was part of saving my life. And I have to think of it that way. And I have to thank God every day, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that I'm still here, and that wrestling fans are finally going to get to hear a truly amazing thing that never happened.
Well, we look forward to that. We're excited to hear about it on the show, and I'm sure you're aware that that Road Dogg has recently now he's not working with the WWF anymore, WWE, sorry. So
you're here to find I do the same thing all the time. It's so fucking hard for me to call it WWE. In fact, I don't.
Yeah, we watch a lot. Predominantly our podcast started by watching old WCW events and old WWF events and reviewing them retrospectively and just talking about them for the next generation of fans. Really? But that's what we do, really. But
that's awesome.
we started interviewing wrestlers because we, you know, like I say, we trained for a little bit, but we kind of really intrigued with that side of it. And I'll tell you what, Max, like one of the biggest things for wrestling fans is fucking real life documentaries. If you look at Beyond the Mat, okay, Beyond the Mat is probably one of the most iconic you know, things that have ever come out of the wrestling business.
Right.
Wrestling with Shadows.
Wrestling with Shadows is the one.
Wrestling with Shadows, you know, and look at what Wrestling with Shadows is absolutely huge. And Dark Side of the Ring. The Dark Side of the Ring, we are obsessed to the point it is obsession with just wanting to know what is going through you guys' heads when you're doing what you're doing, and the stories. You know, there's nothing more intriguing than the real life behind, you know, the story. Say, I hate to say it, but the real life behind the fake stories, because
absolutely,
you know, it is more intriguing than, like, we've got a saying. You know, I'm sure it's in America. You couldn't fucking write this shit. No. You could not write this shit. You know, it is just. You know, and
look at a classic example is the fucking story I was telling you about. You know, here I am on my last tour in the WWF, and I know it. And all I wanted to prove to Vince was, dude, I don't need to wrestle. Just let me be. You know, we can fucking do angles and shit, and have guys come out and fuck with me, and we, you know, I'll take a bump and, you know, fucking gig, whatever the fuck you need me to do.
Yeah.
But fucking let me be a musician. Let the heat get on me or let the fucking heels get heat on me because they're trying to fuck with me. But for some reason they couldn't see that. But here I am on my last tour, and Louis gets fucking cologne sprayed in his eyes. So I have, you know, and I just don't know why. I just went to Tony and I said, went to Tony Gurria and I said, you know, I'm the only wrestler you've ever had, or maybe you ever will have, that can give you 25 minutes without an opponent. And then he called Vince, and Vince said, okay, Max, do it. And I did it. And that's what you're talking about. And when people see this fucking movie, brother, that's what I'm saying. So this movie's going to come out one way or another. Let me tell you what's going to happen. No, I need to keep that part, but let me just put it this way.
Sure.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I will tell you, the movie that I have, all those other things you've talked about, please don't misinterpret this as taking anything away from them.
Sure.
They're fine. They're great pieces within themselves.
Yeah.
But there is nothing and never will be nothing like Thing. I just call it, I've shortened it now to just Thing, because the thing that should not be was me. And the movie is about me. But in the course of that movie, and my desperation to try and prove who I am, you get to see the wrestling business in a way you've never seen it before. And the people that are in it, half of the cast is dead. It had Yokozuna, I got Bam Bam, I got fucking Rad, I got Owen. I mean, all these people, and Owen is so amazing in this fucking movie. Yokozuna, Rodney is so fucking adorable in this movie, man. He's just great. He's fucking funnier than shit. And it is just this precious fucking diamond. And I've never understood why Vince didn't call me on the phone and say, fuck, Max, let's get together and talk about this and get this fucking thing out so the world can see this. But I don't care about that anymore. I obviously am never going to fucking do anything in the WWF again. They've made it clear after 30 years, like I said, never a phone call, never a fucking, hey, not a fucking, like I said, you know, I just watched a special on The Warrior, and everybody, you know, all the shit they did to him, and they all apologized and hugged neck and everything got better. And then he goes and then he dies right after that. And it's like, I still don't understand what I did that was so bad that I didn't even deserve a fucking phone call to say, let's fucking sit down and talk this out. You know, let's sit down and say, hey, where could we go with this? And quite frankly, Brian will hear this. Brian already knows. I'm in contact with Brian, and I'm telling you right now, we're gonna do something. And I don't know. First of all, the first thing we gotta do is we gotta get this record out so that wrestling fans can hear it and tell the real story, that we can finally debunk the whole Jeff Jarrett moment, because that's never been debunked.
Yeah.
You know, I asked Brian the other day, I said, why? He goes, it just fell by the fucking wayside when Steve Miller shot the whole project down. So when Steve Miller killed it, it died. That was it.
Did you ever find out why? Did you ever find out why he fucking I mean, you don't have to tell us why, but
I don't know why. I don't know why. He never said, what he said to me is, well, I talked to my manager, and my manager said, you don't want to be involved in the wrestling business. What's it going to do to your career? And I said,
so it's the industry fuckers that got involved, got in his ear.
That's who got
just said to him,
too.
Fucking leave it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, leave it. Don't fuck with this. And you know what it was? That's nothing, in my opinion, but jealousy. And Steve Miller, I don't think he realizes what he lost by not embracing the wrestling crowd. Can you imagine if that fucker would have gone on fucking WWF television, how many more records he would have sold?
And not to mention,
those moments last forever. Like those,
and not
those
only that,
things, yeah.
You know what he was going to be on the fucking show? He was going to be my lawyer. He was going to be my lawyer, and that's where we were going to go save Brian from fucking Jeff Jarrett.
Wow. I mean, and what did they have at WrestleMania 11? It was LT versus Bam Bam Bigelow in the main event. Diesel versus Shawn.
We went to a party after that. It was in some really fucking high-end deal. It was a double level place, and there was a balcony above, and I was nobody. And so I was actually just sitting upstairs kind of crying, because I knew my career was over, and I was pretty sure I wasn't ever going to be in a WrestleMania. And I looked down, and I remember that match between Bam Bam and LT. And fucking Bam Bam lost and got up and ran out of the fucking arena. And when they brought LT backstage after that match, he was breathing out of every orifice in his fucking body.
You could see it at the end of the match. He was dead. He was dead.
Bam Bam almost kicked up and lands on his feet, runs out of the fucking arena. LT was down for like 3 hours after that. He was fucked.
Yeah.
And, you know, I stood there watching LT getting everybody slapping him on the back and everything. And I just knew my career was over. And I'd already decided, you know, that I was going to, and you know, so this is now you guys, let me tell you, I'll tell you another story that goes after this, because, and then this will help you understand when I finally, you know, the world loves an underdog, right? And I'm not trying to fucking baby face off of being an underdog, but I was an underdog. And I had failed at everything I wanted to do in the wrestling business. And it broke my heart. It killed me. It crushed me. So when I went back home, I went and got in a casting agency in Salt Lake City. Utah is a tremendous hub for, in fact, they call it LA North. I don't know if you know that. They call Utah LA North. And the reason is Utah has gone out of its way to accommodate the film industry. And I went and I found the highest profile agent in Salt Lake. I went and talked to her. She happened to be a friend of my auntie, so she gave me a interview, and I met with her. And that day she hired me on the spot. The next day they called me and they said, "We've got a gig for you." And I said, "Really? What is it?" And she said, "They want you to be a voiceover for a video game. And I said, fucking A. And I went and did that. And shortly after that, a fucking video game comes out called Maxx Payne. And I start realizing that the makers of that fucking video game, I'd given them a dossier full of my fucking pictures and my stuff. And we ended up settling. I can't talk much about it.
Sure.
But my first fucking gig out of the wrestling business, first fucking gig, they stole my entirety.
Well, I heard stories.
You know, it's just so that by that point, all my point is, brother, please, and I'll let you go.
No, go.
Well, my point is, dude, when that happened to me, when that went down, I just went, dude, maybe you should just fucking go be a farmer or something, for fuck's sakes, because you're just not meant to fucking, for whatever reason, I'm just a fucking heat seeker. So, you know, and I had to fight with fucking them. So,
I listened to many years ago now a really old grainy interview I think that you did with someone over the phone, maybe fucking 15 or so years ago. I don't know.
It was Ripper. It was Ripper the Clown.
But yeah,
yeah.
And I listened to it many years ago, and I remember you saying about the Maxx Payne computer game, and I also remember vaguely about something to do with you maybe making your own t-shirts and wearing something in the ring, what you were wearing in the ring. They didn't like what you were wearing. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Oh, fuck. So I don't know if you remember, but when the shirts I wore in the ring, it said Fashion Victim Maxx Payne on the back, right?
Yeah.
Well, Fashion Victim actually at the time was a t-shirt manufacturer.
Right.
They had nothing to do with those. I did that. I found them, Nick and I, in fact, Nick said, I know this fucking place is heavy metal shop on our way to Fayetteville, North Carolina. And we'd stop there every time we'd go to fucking Fayetteville. And I fucking bought this shirt that was Fashion Victim. And I asked the guy, I said, you know how to get a hold of these guys? And he gave me their phone number, because that's how he ordered his shirts. And I called the guy. And the guy took care of me in my whole wrestling career. When I left the wrestling business and the WC got rid of me, what happened right after the WCW, or right after I left? The NWO. Hogan went to fucking there in the NWO. You remember their t-shirts?
Yeah.
Black with the big white letters on the front of it.
Yeah.
Just like mine. You know why? The guy that was my t-shirt guy moved from Illinois to Atlanta to be the t-shirt manufacturer for the WCW at the time. And they actually took my t-shirt guy when I left, and he moved to Atlanta because of WCW and became a t-shirt manufacturer for the NWO.
Fuck yeah.
No, I'm not upset about that. It just shows you, like you were talking about, you know, I know what my impact was. I think I would like to believe that anybody who came after me, and Chris Jericho, any of the guys that are there now, I'd like to believe that maybe they were inspired a little bit by fucking kind of a, you know, not the biggest character, but definitely a character of the WCW.
Well, even the Headbangers. Well, I spoke to Jordan earlier about the Headbangers, and I mean that's not too far from really, you know, a derivative of Maxx Payne. You know, it the heavy metal t-shirts. You know, maybe not the fucking skirts.
No, but yeah. I love kilts, though. Don't get me wrong.
No, but maybe, you know, I mean,
no, you're right. And you know, the thing that's funny about that is, you know, that's okay. It doesn't, like I said, dude, it would, the animosity part of that in me is gone, you know?
Sure.
Because good fucking God, that shit will kill you, you know? It will eat you alive. I'm just glad, one, that I'm still here. Two, that now I can fucking tell the story unabated. Nobody can stop me now. Because people like yourselves and wrestling fans, they don't give a fuck. They of course, they like what the WWF and the wrestling fans, they're wrestling fans, but there's also a group of people out there that are like yourselves that are huge wrestling historians and want to know where are they now and why, you know. And I didn't realize, I got to be honest with you, I didn't think anybody gave a fuck. I really didn't. And when I went and did my first autograph signing, I couldn't believe the response I got from people. It was amazing. And I was so happy. And I just want to tell my story just because, one, for my children's sake, I've never given up. I started pursuing my dream when I was in Takedown. I was 16 years old. I'm now 60. That was 46 years ago. I started pursuing my dream. And I've never fucking quit. And I'm not going to quit until there are movies that say a film by Maxx Payne, that there are records released that say a record by Maxx Payne. And then I will be fulfilled. But I've never given up on my dream. And I hope that it proved, I think this is the part of the underdog that I can't wait to share with the world, that you should never give up on your dreams. Because if you stick with them, if you believe in them and you stick with them, they will come true in some way or another. The universe will manifest you. And the universe in the last couple of years has been sending these wonderful, incredible fucking things my way, that when I was doing it, it wasn't my turn. And now maybe it's my turn.
Well, that is, we certainly hope it's your turn. I get the feeling that your movie might leave one or two people sweating in the wrestling world.
I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, even the movie, there's nothing in it that's really bad. I mean, it's more of a fucking, it's more of a degrade on me than it is on anybody else, because I'm the one that failed, you know. I'm the fucker that's crying about not being a part of the clique and what do I got to do, and you know. I always have to remember, for me, I always have to remember that I've always tried. I'm not here to blow anybody's candle out, because I don't believe you have to blow anybody's candle out to make your own shine. Unfortunately, the wrestling business is based on that. Yeah. And I think it's sad. But there's not much room in the wrestling business for that kind of kindness, because that's always viewed as weakness. And now I don't have to view that as weakness, because first of all, I've got somebody to look after me. And I'm just excited to come back. There's really nothing in the wrestling business that anybody would have to, you know, hide from me over, that it would sweat them. I'm certainly not a physical threat to anybody any longer. Way too fucking old for that. And besides that, I'm retired. I've fucking fought enough in my life. The last thing I want to do is be aggressive that way. Besides that, if I'm going to have any aggression, it's going to be in my music, and I'll take it out there.
Max, I have one more question for you.
Please.
And this is something that Chris is probably going to be dying to ask as well. Where are the Maxx Payne action figures?
I never got one, but they're coming. That's a promise.
Yeah,
there we go.
dude.
See?
Yeah.
There we go.
Not only am I going to do action figures, my friends, I'm going to make guitars. I'm going to do all kinds of fucking, I want to do a clothing line. I'm still a heavy metal guy, as you can plainly tell. I've always been a fucking heavy metal guy. That was the hardest part about being Man Mountain Rock. It just defied who I was. I was never a hippie. I was always a fucking heavy metal guy. And, I grew up listening to Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, and Kiss. So eventually the marketing side will come. And we're gonna make some cool shit. I hope. So,
Okay.
But I really believe we're gonna have some dolls and stuff. Yeah.
It's crazy. I heard a quote the other day, someone saying, heavy metal guys are good guys pretending to be bad, and hippies are good, bad guys pretending to be good. So we truly believe that too, man. This has been an incredible interview. I mean, it has been
We're just getting started, brothers. Listen, I mean this. See, that's what I want everybody to know. Here's why I'm different. And this is what I want to say. And I want to start preaching this. Okay, I had a wrestling career. And I'm proud of it. I am. Because when you see what I accomplished, finally, it's something to be proud of. It really is. I can't be anything but proud, and now's my time. And I want to accomplish the things and get those things out there so that the rest of the world can enjoy. It's not just me. This is me not being selfish. Like I said, Road Dogg is one of the greatest fucking vocalists you've ever heard. You'll be shocked. I mean, I'm serious as a fucking heart attack. And I find it a bit ironic almost. Brian and I hadn't been in contact for 30 years. And I just talked to him like a month before the WWF let him go. And here all of a sudden we're back together. And I said, maybe now we can fucking go show the world what an amazing motherfucking musician we are. What motherfucking great musicians we are. Because Brian is incredible. He is one of the most incredible musicians you can ever imagine. He's got just an incredible voice. And I hope that the next time that we get together, this is the part that I love. And I'll do all day. I'll do it anywhere in the world. I'll go talk to people. I'll go talk to fans. I'll be with fans anytime, because the fans are what brought me out, got me back. I mean, obviously somebody out there wanted me to come back, because when this guy finally found me, he said, you don't know how fucking hard people have been trying to get a hold of you. And I said, I guess I don't, because like I said, I thought I was just a fucking water under the bridge guy. And I'm excited to be back. And I got another story to tell that has everything to do with wrestling and nothing to do with it at all. And that's the cool part about it. And so wrestling can't take that away from me. They can't take away the fact that I built a recording studio and spent my own money to record an album that nobody's ever heard. And you'll get to hear it. It's going to be my goal. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I might wait just because I want it to be a bigger buildup. WrestleCon, I'm going to WrestleCon on the 5th. And then there's a big event in New York on the 4th of March that I'm going to before I go to WrestleCon. And then I'm just going to fucking go any place in the world people are interested in having me. And if I can do this till I die, that's what I'm hoping for.
Well,
Man,
yeah.
If you can get over here, Max,
I'm coming.
Man, if you come to the UK, we're on the fucking list, man, and we will.
You know you are.
Yeah,
Those are
we'll
awesome.
be there, fucking waiting there. I'll have you sign my magazines.
Forget that, Chris. Chris, he's welcome for tea and cake.
for tea and cakes, baby.
Yeah.
You know,
all I want to know is that they've got some good kind of, shall we say, what's the legal status of, you know?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it can catch your drift. Yeah. I mean, the legal status of various things over here doesn't seem to bother anyone over here. So they're a little bit lax on stuff like that. So
thank God it's finally came to the United States like that too. There's only a couple of states that it's still like that. And for fuck's sakes, I happen to live in one.
Oh, you're joking.
No, I live in Idaho.
Oh man. So I mean, we just appreciate so much the time that you've given us, because like I say, this is an insight into you that it is just invaluable, and it's been incredible. It's been emotional. It's been, you know, and your story of serendipity, as to say, you know, even now with BG, James being released from the WWE at this time means that maybe he's got a bit more time now to kind of do what needs to be done. So fuck, man, this has been emotional roller coaster for us. We just appreciate you just laying everything down so candidly for us. You know, we're just a couple of fucking jabronis from the UK, man. So
hey, you know what though? Let me tell you something. I've told this story before, and I mean it. This is the God's truth. Probably one of the biggest reasons that I don't know how else to put it, that not looked down on, but I couldn't stand being in the dressing room with the egos. I hated it. So I always hung out with the job guys. I dressed with the job guys. Everything I did, and if you talk to any of them, they'll tell you that. And I always hung out with them because they were always the real dudes, man. They would fucking have barbecues in the backs of their cars and shit. And they would fucking do fun shit. And they would always invite me to their parties, and they were always kind to me. And, you know, maybe it was motivated by, you know, maybe what, you know, hey, I'll be good to him because maybe it'll do something for me down the road. But they were always the salt of the earth guys. And they were the ones, you know, the guy that taught me the wrestling business, Red Bastien, said, don't ever fucking look down on the jabronis. He goes, those motherfuckers are a huge, important part of the business. And what you guys do, it isn't a jabroni thing. You know, that's the part, you know, guys like The Rock made the word jabroni a worldwide phenomenon. And it's the jabroni status is a little misunderstood. And quite frankly, the true word should be the workers, because that's the guys that do the fucking work. They were the workhorses of the business for years and years and years and years, and still are. They still use that mentality. And they are the real people that I loved hanging out with. In fact, the first time I met Triple H he was in the fucking jabroni dressing room, and he was terrorizing.
Yeah, that's right.
And Paul and I were really good friends, and he went his own way, and I'm happy for Paul. I am so happy for Paul. He got everything he wanted, and I don't have a problem with that. But guys like yourself and that do it well, and you do it well, and I promise you, my promise to you guys is I will always be available for you. I will make time, because the people that you talk to are the people I want to talk to. So that's what matters.
Man, we appreciate that. We embrace our jobber status, man. We say it, don't we, Jordan? We always say it on every episode when we chat to anyone, you know. We don't mind being squashed by Maxx Payne. You know, I would happily be put in the painkiller. I would embrace that jabroni status.
You know, I watched a special on Randy Savage, just a good closing note. I watched a special on, I've watched a lot of those A&E, the life of like Randy and Warrior and Roddy Piper. And the one on Randy Savage was amazing. And I'll tell you why I think it's the most amazing part of it is they interviewed Steamboat. And have you seen this one on Macho Man? The one where they interviewed Steamboat about WrestleMania 3. Steamboat's talking about the match he and Savage had at WrestleMania 3. Mm-hmm. And Savage called Steamboat and said, we need to get together. And they got together, and Savage had something like 171 points in a script he'd written down. The whole fucking match was written down. And Steamboat fucking, like, they had to sit like the day before in a hotel, and fucking Steamboat had to prove to Macho Man that he had the whole fucking match in his head, right? Yeah. And I really loved Ricky for telling this story because it's amazing. That's what people don't understand about wrestling, to be able to go out and choreograph a match and go out and perform it and then add the liveness and the spontaneity of doing it live is incredible. But what Ricky said about that match was what mattered. He said, Savage lost. He got beat that night. By the time he left the fucking Pontiac Silverdome that night, he had more fucking heat than he did before he got in the fucking ring. And he just lost the match to Steamboat. Not one fucking person gave a shit that he lost that match. They cared that he was a fucking heel on his way out the door. And fucking, that's what made Randy and great wrestlers truly great wrestlers. Because it's not about Randy fucking getting a win. Professional wrestling isn't about fucking getting a win. Professional wrestling is about making money and satisfying the audience. And it's just like a great fucking movie. It has to fucking, you go in, you sit down, and you willingly suspend your disbelief, and you fucking hate that motherfucker from the time he walks in the ring till he leaves it. And he never broke character. And fucking Steamboat said, that's what Macho Man was proud of. He didn't give a fuck about losing. He gave a fuck about being a heel on his way out of the Pontiac Silverdome in front of the biggest indoor crowd in the history of mankind at the time. And that's what wrestling's about. And if you ever forget that, then you've really lost why it's such a fucking, why people love it so much, is because it's just like a movie. It has the ability to give you exactly what you want and then snatch it away from you just as fast, so that you can start working on getting it back again. And that's the part of the wrestling business that I've always fucking loved. And it always broke my heart how many guys took themselves so fucking seriously. You know, there's so many guys as a fucking shooter, I could have killed them in a heartbeat. And I didn't, because that's not who I was. I knew that the business was meant to be this way. And that's what I love about the wrestling business. That's the part I loved so much about the wrestling business. And I do consider it an honor that I was accepted in a lot of ways. And I'm still here, and I'm excited to finish telling my story.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You know.
And I will be back, you guys. So here's what's coming up. I've got a signing, a big show in New York, the 1st of March. I've got WrestleCon. You guys coming to WrestleCon by chance?
In the States,
difficult to travel.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to travel at the moment.
Fucking COVID still.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing WrestleCon in April, and then I don't know after that. I have a feeling things are going to continue to get more crazy in my life now that the fact that people are starting to know that I'm out there and the stories I'm starting to tell are starting to make a little more sense. So I really look forward to the future, and I look forward to doing more interviews with you guys. And I promise you, you can count me as one of your regulars, friends. I will, I'm open to anything. I love great ideas, and stay in touch with me.
100%, man.
We will. Thank you so much, Max. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us. It's been amazing, and I can't thank you enough for just getting back to us in the first place. Like that's just part of the. Yeah.
You guys are great. You really are. You're good at this, man. You made me feel so at ease right from the get-go. And I just want to thank you. And like I said, I appreciate you doing the interview with me. And let's just say this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship, friends.
Man, that's incredible. We do like the historian aspect of it. We're keeping these stories alive, and we're gonna keep doing it. And like I say, we really appreciate your time, Max. We cannot thank you enough. It's been incredible.
Hey, if you run across Robbie Brookside, you tell him I said hello.
No worries, man.
You ever see Robbie?
Not for a long time.
Not for a long time. He's been in the States for a while, but before he went over there and started working over there behind the scenes, I think he is in the States.
In Florida, yeah, he was in Florida for it.
Is that like he's like working as a wrestler?
Head trainer. He was. I'm not sure if he was head trainer. But he's one of the trainers for WWE.
Are you fucking ripped? No, that doesn't surprise me.
No.
Of course he is. He's friends with William.
Yeah, I mean, at one point you had Dave Taylor, you had Robbie Brookside, you had William Regal, you had pretty much it was a group of British guys that were training the youngsters.
Well, I knew once that Steve, because Steve lived with me for a while. Steve Regal, William. Yeah, he lived with me for a while, and I helped him a lot when he first got to the States because he didn't know anybody else. So Skip and I were pretty good friends until he got a little tired of me too, and he just was pissed that I wasn't. People had an idea of the way I should do things, and if I didn't do it their way, then it's easy for you to dismiss me. But that's okay. I still love Darren. I have no animosity towards Darren either. I just want everybody to know I don't look at it that way. I look at it that I have nothing but fond memories of like Darren and Robbie Brookside. Jesus Christ. I don't know if you guys know this, but there is a badass fucking show I was on in England about 25 years ago. Brookside did it. Do you know about this?
Well, I mean, I know there were shows that
the thing where he took the camera and shot behind the scenes wrestling thing for the BBC.
Oh shit! Do you know what? I do remember it. Were you in that?
Oh fuck! Go watch it.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna watch it again because I do remember it as well. I remember it.
It has got one of the greatest fucking moments in my life. In that, we were all fucked up, and I had one of my best friends with me and Robbie, and we went to the wrong fucking town. The only time in my life I ever missed a shot was live on a BBC camera, for Christ's sake.
Man, I do remember the documentary. We're going to watch it and talk about documentary. There has got to be someone out there, even if you get like a Kickstarter going or something to
That's what I'd like to do. That's what I really would like to do. Is
Max, do it, man. There has got to be, and I'm sure, however you might feel, how, you may have rubbed people up the wrong way certain times or whatever, fuck all that. There's got to be some people out there that want to see this and they'll be like, do you know what? Let's get this done. Do not underestimate the power of the mark, because we will fucking happily chip in a few quid to get this shit off the ground. So if you start a Kickstarter, myself and Jordan will be happily chucking in a $5 or a $10, a few quid.
Get the promotion going.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Please
I'm gonna do it. I really am. So here's the thing. This is what I got to do. Is I've got a guy who's gonna, one of the things I know about myself is I am a typical musician. I'm scattered in some ways, in other ways I'm the most ADHD guy you'd ever fucking meet. And I have a bit of OCD in me as well, but I'm not very good at managing myself because I'm way too kind. So I've got a guy that's going to start looking after me. And that's got to be the first thing. I got to do this right this time and make sure that I because I won't leave this time. I'm not going to leave until I get these things done, because it is the wrestling fans, they deserve to see this stuff, and I'm going to get it done. That's a promise. And I will be in touch with you guys as soon as I start to move in that direction.
Amazing. Thanks again, Max, man.
Thank you,
Chris
Max.
and Jordan, you guys were fucking awesome.
Man.
Next time I come on, I'll play.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Can't wait.
I'll play one. So I'm going to leave you with something that's going to fucking blow your mind. So Nick Patrick and I wrote this song called Bleed to Feed. And it is a bad motherfucker. And part of the reason I can't wait to do this band, I don't want to expose too much.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, because I want people, the first time they come to see one of our shows, I want them to fucking feel the anxiety that I'm trying to create in them. And this song is something else. And when you go watch that Robbie Brookside thing,
yeah,
I got a crystal ball and I'm playing Bleed to Feed in that fucking show. And
wow.
I will tell you, that song is going to be the biggest song we do at a show. It'll always be the last song of the show. And because you will walk, my goal is if I ever get to, no, I'm going to, when I play in front of a live audience, I always wanted this. I always wanted you, like you're walking out of a concert, man, when you're with a crowd and you're walking out of the concert. I want you to get like out the door and stop and turn around and go, what the fuck was that? I really want you to just be fucking going, wow, I thought I'd seen everything in rock and roll, And that's why I wanted to bring the wrestling business to rock and roll. So you guys, I promise you, you're on my A list. I'm going to come back and talk to you anytime you want. You got more questions? If you just stay in touch with me, and I'll just, if something happens, you call me. In fact, I told you who my guy is. I'll send you his link. I'm not easy to get a hold of. You lucked out because right now I'm still in control of my stuff.
Right.
I'm gonna let control go of my Facebook and all that stuff because I am not a social media guy. I fucking hate it. I'm sorry. I'm just not. If I'm gonna spend time on social media, I'd rather spend time playing my guitar and recording music.
Yeah.
So I understand the importance of social media. I do. I just am not good at it. So if somebody else is going to handle that for me, just know you can get a hold of me. All right. And I'll make sure you know how to get a hold of me. If you can't get a hold of me through the channel you just went through, I'll make sure you have the link to get a hold of my guy. His name's Nick Christie, Think Signatures. And if you want to, just get a hold of him and we'll work it out no matter what. That's my promise to you.
Perfect.
Thank you
so
man.
much, Max. We
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
All right, fellas.
Cheers.
Take care.
It was awesome, man. Chris and Jordan, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
God bless you. We'll talk again soon. That's my promise.
Take care, brother.
Wow.
Bro, that was amazing. That was something that literally came together over the course of a day or two. And it's, like I said it in the interview itself, it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Just something about that just, it was just brilliant. And we cannot thank Max enough for taking the time. Again, it's a considerable amount of time to join us and talk to us and just be so cool about it.
What I mean, fucking hell. Again, another.
He almost left Chris speechless.
I mean, on numerous occasions, it's like we are humbled by the fact that these guys who have been in the business feel so comfortable that they can sit with us for 3 hours, 3 fucking hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just talk about stuff. And, we fucking hell. You know, it is, again, it's just incredible. Like Jordan said, this happened over the course of about a day. I mean, it was on the cards maybe last week or whatever. And, you know, we were trying to organize stuff with Max and, you know, get it on penciled in or whatever. But we're just humbled that he was able, you know, the 3 hours of someone's time is valuable, and he's got a lot to say. And fuck me, man, we need to see this documentary. We need to see.
We need to hear the music.
We need to hear the music. We need to. When I heard Mick Foley talking about Road Dogg being the singer in his band, I had to ask him. We had to get that. And I think we got a few little exclusives.
I think we got a few exclusives
on this show, baby.
Some serious bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs. Gassed. I'm supposed to. It's 11 o'clock at night. All right, and I'm completely fucking wired now. I'm supposed to go to bed. I've got work in the morning.
I'm living off of 3.5 hours sleep that I got the night before. And I was really tired all day, and this came, and now I'm no longer tired. I'm wired.
That's what tired. They ain't tired. We're wired, baby.
And I managed to get through a whole can of Iron Brew,
bro. I'm halfway through a bottle as well, you know. So shout out to Iron Brew. Hopefully, we'll get that sponsorship coming through. Yeah,
we've got to thank Zen Pop for doing their thing. The giveaway is almost set. We are ready to get that going. I might have to start that, you know, as soon as this episode drops.
Beginning of the week, baby. Yeah. Monday.
So there will be a giveaway from Zen Pop. Thank you to them. Zenpop.jp. Use the code Grapple for $5 off your next order.
Link in the description.
And if you want some sweet fucking merch, sweet Chat Grapple and Cheap Pops merch, you can see hats, you can see t-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of other things. There's travel mugs, clocks, and I use the word clock with an L in it, you know.
Mate, who knows what will come in the future? But I mean, I'm even thinking about getting a clock and whacking it behind me right now, baby. You know, the clocks are fucking sweet, man. Pillows. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Get yourself a cushion.
Pillows. We've also got the ICO Pro Jacked Award winner t-shirts, the baseball style t-shirts, everything like that. So definitely the link will be in the description, as it is starting to go up on other videos. Check out that link at Redbubble and you'll find all of our brand new merch. It is something to see, really is. Wow, I'm so fucking wired right now. I gotta say thank you to everyone that's stuck around for another 3 hours or however long this is. You know, it was Maxx Payne. You couldn't stop him.
No, but what an absolutely, because, you know, he's a lovely guy. Again, absolute fucking salt of the earth guy. And very philosophical. I know he said he probably back in the day he wasn't always like this, you know, and he was maybe rubbed people up the wrong way. But fuck, man, he just came across as a very nice guy, and he has got shit to say, and he has got, you know, I'm sold, man. He's got his own walking, you know, wrestling with shadows. He's got his own.
Could well be
Beyond the Mat. You know, and it needs to be done. So anybody watching this who has an interest, and that guy who took the photo of him smashing the guitar over one of the Nasty Boys' heads, if you're watching this, if you know,
we all need to see.
Yeah, get in contact with us and we'll send it on to Max, or, you know, try and get hold of Max or whatever. But fuck, man, that was just 3 hours again of just wrestling beautifulness, you know.
Yeah, it was, and I can only say it was something. It was really something.
It really
was. If you're watching this and you're not already subscribed, sweet Jesus, hit the bell. Like, there's so many interviews out there that we've got now. Like, you know, other than Maxx Payne, we've had Sonny Ono, Kiwi, Jameson, Santino, you know,
Eric Watts,
yeah, another 3-hour extravaganza.
You know, Chris Hamrick.
Yeah. I mean, hit those buttons, subscribe. You know, you don't even need the notifications. You know, nobody likes notifications of anything these days. I hate
That's right.
notifications of, you know, social media. But subscribe, like, comment. You know, if you're listening, you know, give us a 5 stars on Apple. Someone left one just recently. You know, thankful for that. Really am.
Meltzer, give us that 8.5 star
Yeah, give us
like
8.5
rating on
stars
fucking
in the Tokyo Dome.
You know what I mean? In the Stevenage Dome.
Yeah, I'm probably right in saying that your parsnip has been buttered tonight.
My parsnip is well and truly buttered. I fucking love it when we ask the question to a guest and we pop them. You know what I mean? Like, I think we popped Max a few times with a few questions tonight, and that does butter my parsnip because it means we're doing something right. And these two jabronis will happily, embrace our jabroni status with being squashed by Maxx Payne tonight.
Even that whole philosophical look on jobbers / workers was just, something to check out. And I might have to try and cut that and make that into its own small video, because that was a really beautiful piece there.
This interview was littered with beautiful little anecdotes, beautiful stories, interwoven with emotional, he had his hair standing up, he almost was teared up at one point.
Yeah, he got very got emotional as well, man. And
fuck, I mean, but what more can you ask for, So please, guys, if you enjoyed this interview as much as we did, slap that bell, subscribe, fucking like, share it, and just enjoy, please enjoy it.
Please do. Thank you to Zenpop, of course, zenpop.jp. Hit up Redbubble for our stuff. Hit the subscribe and like buttons. We're going to get out of here, and we're going to, talk about this a bit more after we stop recording. So thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you for checking us out. We love you all. You know who it is. It's JB. It's the best Chris in all the wrestling podcast, Chris.
And that was Maxx Payne, baby.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.